Our whole world carries the burden of your family's grief.
A few months into 2025, gaming giant Bethesda surprised everyone by shadow-dropping The Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered, a $60 update of the 2006 RPG Oblivion, and everyone went crazy. It sold really well, and the gaming news was suddenly dominated by all things Oblivion. But another game released the same week, the first game ever by a brand new studio, a somewhat niche French turn-based $50 RPG called Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Many assumed the gigantic Oblivion Remaster release would completely overshadow this brand new game, and yet only a month after release, Expedition 33 has gone on to become the highest user-rated game of all time on Metacritic, surpassing games like Chrono Trigger, Ocarina of Time, even Baldur's Gate 3. Some people are saying this is the greatest game they've ever played, yet some people say it does nothing original. It's just a copy of things other games have already done. And that is partly true, because we'll see influences from Chrono Trigger, Jade Cocoon, Devil May Cry, Guild Wars 1, Persona, Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2, Golden Sun, Dark Souls, Legend of Dragoon, and many more.
So what is Clair Obscur Expedition 33? Why is it so highly rated? Does it deserve this score? Is it a brand new thing pushing boundaries? Or just Final Fantasy, rehashing old designs we've seen before in prettier packaging? And then can it do the one thing I never thought anything would be able to do? Can it make me an Englishman? Like the French.
To find out, I've finished the game and completed all the side quests, including the super bosses, and now I'll be breaking down the mechanics, discussing the inspirations behind the game, the art direction, the voice acting, the leveling system, and the character builds. We'll look at how the environmental and enemy design is tied into the narrative storytelling. We'll judge the pace of the mechanical system introduction to the player, and then critique the narrative through a dramatic lens, because I have a drama degree, and my god, I'm going to use it. So sit down and strap in, it's about to get dramaturgical in here as we ask the simple question. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Is it actually any good? Content warning for extreme themes of grief and mourning. And as usual, a massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep this channel alive and allow me to keep making videos.
A quick personal note before we begin. Expedition 33 is a 20-hour RPG with around 4 hours of high-quality cutscenes and 10 hours of optional difficult content. It's not a super long game, and this video will be analysing the narrative, and in doing so, I'll be spoiling the entire plot. If you haven't played this game and experienced this story, don't watch this video. Seriously, just pause now, go and play the game and come back here. Because the story is one of the strongest aspects of the game. It's a multi-layered, heart-wrenching journey of love, loss, grief, and acceptance. And the time you spend with the characters building up the emotional potential needed for the story to really hit is vital. If you watch this video, you're accepting spoilers. So please, play the game first, then come back here.
Time for the greatest expedition in history.
It's important to remember this is not a massive AAA major game title from a major studio. It falls into the realm of AA gaming. Well funded but still limited in scope. The team of around 33 people working on it were either new to game design or ex-Ubisoft employees sick of the corporate expectations and restrictions of the larger studios. So we'll see some rough aspects like facial animations not matching words perfectly or invisible walls in smaller levels. I'll still critique those of course, but I'm more aware of why they may be happening. The game is designed for controller, but if you play on PC, you can actually hot swap between controller and keyboard at any time, even having both plugged in, and if you press a button on one, the on-screen prompts and button mapping will instantly swap to match that input, which is a lovely touch. In the menus for difficulty, you can choose Always Succeed on Attack Quick Time Events, which will make sense later. I'll leave it as it is for now. I choose Expedition difficulty, and off we go. There are 4 hours of cutscenes in this game, and as much as I'd love to show you all of them, I'll need to summarize most of them to prevent this video becoming 6 hours long. We start in the destroyed city of Lumiere, reminiscent of 1900s Paris, with our protagonist Gustave throwing rocks at a distant monolith, with the number 34 painted in massive golden numbers. He is joined by Maëlle, and all characters are fully voiced. Gustave by Charlie Cox, the actor known for Daredevil, and Maëlle by Jennifer English, who played Shadowheart in Baldur's Gate 3. In fact, we'll see a few of the Baldur's Gate lot returning, and the voice acting is all around superb. We learn Gustave's friend and ex-partner Sophie is preparing for her gommage, whatever that is, so we head to meet her. Gameplay is mostly third-person running with locked distance camera. Basic jumping and climbing comes later. The main narrative path of this game is very linear, but honestly, with the amount of 100-hour-long open-world RPGs with optional crafting systems we've had recently, I'm actually very thankful when a 20-hour narrative-driven RPG with no crafting system wants my time. We run along the rooftops and see a bending Eiffel Tower in the distance. We'll discuss the art direction in depth soon, but for now, just know that Lumiere is a fantastical city. A mix of grounded realism and stylized extravagance and impossible architecture running through it. We then learn to use the grapple, a short-distance fast travel which locks onto certain grapple points. You get a button hint and the controller will shake whenever you can grapple. The grapple doesn't let you make choices. You can't grapple to wherever you want to, but only to pre-locked points. I think the grapple has been included to solve two problems. The first is how the game wanted to have a massive expansive environment with long impressive sightlines which are stunning to look at, but can become tedious to walk or journey through. So the grapple allows the 3D space to be mostly empty for those lovely vistas, and still allow the player to travel through them quickly. The second is how grappling to a smaller landmass, walking a bit and then grappling to another, is essentially allowing the game to unload and load distant assets while keeping a smooth frame rate, and honestly it works fine, because you'll be spending a lot of time admiring the great views and appreciating the decent frame rate. Many games have done grappling before, Tenchu, Uncharted. The most similar to this in function is probably Spite's Reach ability from Dragon Age Veilguard, which creates temporary paths from limited connection points. The grapple itself is not an original or unique mechanic, but it's both fun and functional. Further on the rooftops, Mael challenges us to a duel. Expedition 33 is made up of 3 interlinked design focuses: third-person exploration of stunning landscapes, unraveling the multi-layered narrative through the cutscenes, and classic RPG turn-based combat. Not action combat, turn-based. You go, I go. So let's break this system down. Now, every character has a unique combat system gimmick, so we'll cover the generals first that apply to everyone and look at the specifics for the characters as we find them. Your team of up to 3 characters takes it in turns to attack the enemy, then the enemy attacks back. The order of attacks can be seen on the list on the left. Higher speeds will make the character attack more frequently. Turn-based RPGs date back to the earliest Final Fantasies. The quarter-side camera angle of the battles is reminiscent of the Legend of Dragoon or Golden Sun, and the far left turn order is similar to the list in Final Fantasy X. The angled button UI extending from the active character, complete with the graphical splash, is similar to the Persona series, so we can already see some influences. You can do one thing per turn, either attack, use a skill, use an item, or skip your turn. Your basic attack does damage using the element of your weapon, physical if it has no element, and generates action points, or AP. You can have up to 9 action points shown down here. Building up AP and then spending them on better attacks is similar to Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2. For items, you only have 3 choices: a health potion, which revives a % of health, an action point potion, or a revive potion, revives a character from death at a certain percentage of health. Each potion can only be used a limited number of times and starts as the basic version. You can upgrade both the potency and the amount of uses available as you play. All potions are fully refilled when resting. We'll see more about this later. Skills are the core of combat. Each skill costs a certain amount of AP to use, shown in the top right of its tooltip, but we will also use additional resources which tie into the combat gimmick of each character. Let's look at Gustav's to start. Dealing any damage builds up his overcharge meter. You can see the current meter on the right, and some skills like Lumiere Assault hit 5 times and generate an additional charge on criticals. It's the classic build then spend gameplay loop. But what sets the game apart from most turn-based games is how you can actively make your attacks stronger by doing a little quick time event during the attack animation. It's only ever the one button needed. You must match the timings when it appears on the screen. Attacks can have 1, 2, or 3 button presses required, and some high-level attacks actually cancel if you don't complete the button presses. I find this quick time during battle animation for more damage system reminiscent of Squall's Limit Break in Final Fantasy VIII, the overdrives in Final Fantasy X, the quick time events in Lost Odyssey, or the more cinematic takedown kills in the older God of War games. But unlike those games, you aren't pressing a series of different buttons, just one button at different times. Once you've maxed out Gustav's overcharge meter, you can then use an overcharge attack, which hits for high lightning damage and can break. Notice how attacks don't give number value ranges of damage, but use terms like low, medium, high, and exceptionally high. And while players can see their remaining health in exact values, you cannot see the enemies, only the remaining health bar and the damage you do during an attack. Chrono Trigger did a similar thing, both with the enemies not showing health totals unless you had a specific item, and combat spells doing low, moderate, or high amounts. By removing the number ranges, you are removing a layer of mechanical information from the player, but you're replacing it with with a much easier to read description, and when the attacks start to get into the absurdly high numbers, I appreciate the simplicity in this reductive wording. Overcharge also says can break. When an enemy takes damage, a yellow break meter builds up under their health bar. When it's full, a yellow star will appear. You can see the same yellow star on the overcharge attack box. Use a break attack when an enemy can be broken to break it, which stuns it for 1 turn and reduces its defense. It will spend its next turn doing nothing. Just be aware this can happen to your characters too. You can tell when a break happens as a smashed glass effect will play. Now, one of my favourite small touches is how if a skill would combine with an effect, like a break attack when an enemy has a full break bar, or a powerful attack has met all the requirements to be used, that skill's name will then be shown in gold instead of white. It's a small, unobtrusive graphical touch to remind the player they might want to use this now without demanding they do. Gustav's gimmick, build up overcharge then use it, is pretty simple, but attacking isn't the only way that you can build up charge. You can also dodge or parry, and this is the system which really raises the skill ceiling of Expedition 33. When an enemy attacks you, you can press circle to dodge. Dodging at the right time will avoid all damage. You cannot spam dodge, as an unsuccessful dodge has a short cooldown, but successful ones can be performed again instantly. Dodging has a rather wide timing window. Successful dodges just say dodge. But if you dodge at the exact right time, you'll notice it says perfect. This is where parrying comes in. Instead of circle to dodge, press R1 to parry. Parrying is much less forgiving. It has the same timing window as a perfect dodge. But if you are able to parry an enemy, you will not only avoid all damage, but then you will instantly counterattack for massive damage of your own. You'll get gorgeous slow-mo, beautiful exploding particle effects coupled with dramatic camera movement, and this does not count as your turn. If an enemy attacks with a combo, you must parry every hit of that combo to get the counterattack. If you miss a single parry or perform a dodge instead, you will not get the counterattack. It's important to note, on the game's narrative difficulty, you do not need to parry or dodge at all. People have even done all hit runs where you don't parry or dodge anything and you can still finish the game. Normal difficulty, the one I'm playing on, will encourage you to parry or dodge the bosses, and hard mode is basically parry or die. Dodging attacks and parrying them for riposte damage is undoubtedly taken from the Soulsborne series of games, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring and Sekiro. But a lovely design touch here is how the game uses both visual and audio hints on when to parry. Enemy attack animations not only slow down, but sound different a split second before the parry window, and if you listen, you can hear it every time.
Just try it.
Finishing a battle shows you the loot you earned, any items, and the chroma, the world currency. You'll see your experience and the bonus you earned if you took no damage, who you killed, and then some interesting stats, such as how many times you parried, or the highest single hit you did.
Now, a personal appreciation I have for this combat system is how it's taken the strengths of both turn-based and action combat and used those to reduce the negatives of both. See, I like turn-based games like older Final Fantasies, but they're more about numbers instead of skill. No matter how skilled you are at the game, if your party is low level, you're just not going to beat the high-level bosses because the skill in that case is still gated by the maths behind the scenes. But equally, once you have the highest possible defense and health, it's actually quite hard to die. Progress is made when your stats are high enough, but too many stats removes the challenge. Action games like Bloodborne, Sekiro or Devil May Cry are more about skill over numbers. In these games, health and damage can help, but ultimately you need to be skillful to win. Even with the best armor and best weapons, mid to high level enemies will still wreck you if you don't engage with the mechanics. But once you do master the mechanics, you can win even with the worst equipment. One game needs raw numbers with little input from skill, the other needs learned skill, with numbers providing a boost but not carrying you. Expedition 33 has both of these systems.
If you want to play Expedition 33 like a classic turn-based RPG and never parry, you can build your numbers to allow that to work, investing in health and defense. But if you want to play it like an action game, you can invest into damage and become a parry god. It's added the skill back into turn-based and the stats back into action, giving enjoyers of both styles something they can fall back on. Notice how the after-battle option is labelled "We continue." That will be thematically relevant soon. It's important to note here that the word chroma is used in two contexts. It's the currency you can spend, but it's also the life essence of the world. Consider it creation energy. If something has more chroma, it has more vitality, more power. Chroma is needed to make things.
Something's disrupting the chroma around here. Be careful.
But the best part about this tutorial and all tutorials in the game is you can choose to skip them. We sprint over the rooftops, you have unlimited stamina, and while the characters continue to talk, the character models are not animated for conversations in the third-person gameplay sections.
Why'd you wait until today to say something? It's a bit late, isn't it?
These magical golden ropes raise or lower us to different levels. The game has limited verticality and there's not much consistency with it. Sometimes you can just jump down to a lower area, other times you have to use the rope as you're effectively changing gameplay zones. Eventually we meet up with Sophie, and a small but brilliant design choice is all the cutscenes are pausable and skippable. But you'll never skip by accident as you have to hold the circle button down.
Can we talk?
Gustav. I love you all.
Sophie is voiced by Billy Fulford Brown, a veteran of audiobooks and video games, and she brings a lovely sweetness to her, which makes her instantly likeable, so nice one, Billy.
Thanks, Josh. Enjoy the gommage.
I'm sure I will.
That's for your, if there's room.
There's always room.
You know, I'm sorry that... I miss
you don't need to... Okay.
You go.
No, you're fighting to change things.
We'll break the cycle, so she can't steal anyone else's future.
Stubborn people change the world. And you are the most stubborn person I know.
Note the first use of the phrase, break the cycle. The narrative is littered with small moments of foreshadowing. We now play as Sophie for a bit. You can swap character models with L3. This is purely a visual change, but we will find a few very specific instances later of needing to be playing as a certain character to get a specific item. You can talk to a few NPCs to flesh out Lumiere's world and eventually reach the plaza, a large gathering of people preparing for the Gommage. And notice how the dialogue keeps pressing on themes of inevitability and doom.
Do you care so little about the future of Lumiere? How can you be so selfish?
I'm not selfish enough to bring others into our doomed world. I know we are not many to think like this now. And it destroyed my relationship with the person I loved the most. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to spend this moment with him.
I very much appreciate how, in cutscenes, there is a gentle blur effect added to the footage underneath the subtitle text to make it easier to read. A small but lovely touch. I find the little jumping puzzle to grab an item. Expedition 33 isn't really a platformer, but it does have platforming mechanics, and a few moments do take advantage of that. I like this. I've always said if your game has a mechanical system, find a way for the player to engage with it and then reward them for doing so. Also notice how the red and white flags and flowers match Sophie's clothes. Colour theory will be important later. And I love how any important NPCs are often standing away from the crowd, dressed differently, wearing contrasting colours. It's a lovely visual marker to grab the player's attention. Richard, the sewing teacher, then asks us for a favour.
Today is my gommage, and my son and I had a fight last night. He said he wants to join the expedition. I didn't want that for him. I know I made a mistake. I tried to impose my views on him when he is much braver than I will ever be. So I sewed a special uniform for him. That's my last gift. Could you bring it to him?
Of course.
So we have a sewing teacher, a creative profession, and a family argument, father and son. We agree to pass the uniform on, and then this chat brings our first contrasting viewpoints.
The expeditions. What a joke.
You know their goal is to save us all, right?
Yes, that's what my father told me last year, before he left for Expedition 34. We could have spent one more year together instead of wasting it away.
Your father fought to offer you a better future.
I have no future. I know it, and I've accepted it. We're doomed.
The inevitability of doom versus the hope of holding on to something. The foundations are being very deliberately laid here. We do some more dueling and win a colour of Lumina. This will matter later. We see Lune, one of our friends, playing guitar to a crowd of people, and then meet Nicholas, the opera painter, who has some fantastic lines.
I can see you're in love. With this fine gentleman, I suppose.
We broke up.
That is of no consequence in the matters of love.
Talking to Nicholas starts the dodging tutorial framed as a dance between Gustav and Sophie. Dodge enough and Nicholas will paint you as the official opera portrait.
I was so enthralled that I completed the painting in an instant.
We receive a recoat, a consumable item which allows you to reallocate your stats. We'll use this later. We head toward the harbour and Sophie again mentions cycles.
Look at her. She looks sad. Maybe she's a prisoner too, stuck in the same cycle with us.
We arrive at the harbour and find Maëlle comforting some orphans and learn that she too was an orphan.
Hi, Sophie.
Oh, Maëlle. I didn't expect to see you here.
I'm volunteering to help guide children who are losing their parents to the orphanage. Those who weren't registered for foster families.
How kind of you.
I guess I can relate.
This onlooker says he can't believe people put Pictos on their body, which is a lovely in-universe way of introducing Pictos, equipable items which allow you to use skills. We'll examine the skill system in depth later. Then, in a corner, we spot a creepy mime, which attacks us. Mimes are hidden all over the world. They are rather tough optional fights which reward costumes for different characters or music records to play at your camp. This includes what has arguably become the most famous costume and most often cosplayed costume from this game, the baguette. I'm not being insulting to the French, that is literally what this costume is called. The mimes will always start by building a wall, which vastly reduces the damage they take, so you need to build up the break meter and then use a break attack to make them vulnerable. All mimes have 2 combos, which are both relatively easy to time and parry. We head to the harbour and meet Gustav's apprentices. They present him with a uniform Sophie has made him.
You guys know how to sew?
Sophie helped us. Turns out it's not that hard. You really should have done this ages ago.
You did this?
Gentlemen, that was supposed to be between us, yeah? This too is your legacy.
In a way. It's yours too.
Gustav and Sophie then wait on the docks as the Gommage begins. The Gommage is a horrific event which happens every year. The Paintress, the massive construct living beneath the monolith, wakes up and paints a golden number. The number decreases by 1 each year. Then everyone over that age is killed. They disappear and drift off as red petals. I have watched this scene many times and I tear up each time. The music, the cinematography, the facial animation, especially the eyes, is brilliant. You can even find the green screen footage of the actors recording this motion capture. It's just as powerful.
I'm here.
I know. I know.
In the evening, Gustav attends the Expedition pre-launch festival, and Lucien, our friend, has some words of wisdom.
There you are. You can't hide from us, you know. Like I said, mourning's best done with friends.
Lucien!
What? It is. Grieving alone's the worst.
That is a line we'll cycle back to later. The festival has 3 shops we can spend tokens in to get 3 specific items. You earn tokens by answering a multiple-choice history quiz. If you get it wrong, you can just try again. We learn the monolith appeared 67 years ago in a cataclysmic event called the Fracture, which split the world and has been counting down from 100 since then. We learn the purpose of the expeditions is to travel north and kill the Paintress to stop the Gommage. Expedition 0 on the year 100 was the first attempt, and Lune has calculated their exact landing spot and intends to recreate it. We learn that Lune is focused on process and scientific advancement. She has no time for friends or family. She is a woman of practicality to a fault, and her only focus is the mission. Gustav's apprentices then give him a journal to record the adventure in, and we get the first use of the expedition motto.
If we fail, though?
When one falls, we continue. We'll pick up and we'll push on.
When one falls, we continue will be said a lot and acted upon. It also explains why the after-battle screen says, "We continue." It's the team's catchphrase. We give the sewing master's uniform to his son, and the son forgives his father for whatever silly argument they were having. We spend our tokens for an old key for an old door and a broken Pictos. Then we have a chat with Mael on the docks.
I knew I'd find you here. Having second thoughts about the expedition?
Please. More ready to go than you are.
Yeah, I know. Look, I know we've been over this, but as your guardian, I need to say this one more time. The rest of us only have a year left, but you've got 9 good years before your Gommage. You don't need to leave yet. It's a lot to risk.
1 year out there is better than 9 years in here.
The expeditions are mostly made up of people who are going to die anyway on the next Gommage, so everyone is early 30s, but Mael is 16 and still wants to come to help defeat the Paintress. She challenges you to a rematch and is much tougher to fight. Mael is voiced by legendary voice actress Jennifer English, most known for Shadowheart in Baldur's Gate 3, and she brings a real sense of both playfulness and vulnerability to her, so nice one, Jennifer.
Thanks, Josh. Also, you're 34. How are you still alive?
Let's not discuss how old I am. We then meet Gustav's sister, Emma, a more political member of the family.
This is the definition of a fool's quest. My brother's not usually a fool.
I've heard you say otherwise.
You and I both know the political complexities that necessitate the expedition. It's vital for morale, but it's a bloodless guillotine is what it is.
You should put that in your speech. Very motivating. They might just find a guillotine for you too.
Spend the final token we earned for beating Mael on a haircut for Gustav, but if you don't like it, which you probably won't, you can change to any unlocked look in the wardrobe section of the pause menu. Emma gives an inspiring speech, and Expedition 33 sets off to kill the Paintress and stop the cycle. We see the main characters on the boat, Gustav, Mael, Lune, and Sael. And pretty soon the expedition lands on the mainland.
You're old. How did you survive the Gommage? Which expedition are you from?
Fall back!
Come on, we need to go!
Regroup at the rally point. The Indigo Tree.
Fuck! Run! Keep going! Come on! Move! Fucking snap out!
That was one hell of an intro. I don't know what I was expecting, but it was not that. The expedition lands, an old white-haired man kills someone in one easy move, then nightmarish hand creatures start snatching people away. Gustav is separated from everyone and wakes up by a waterfall in Spring Meadows. You can now press triangle to check the expedition status and the current area objective. You can also hold triangle to use a chroma elixir which fully heals the party. You have a limited number of uses of this elixir and they refill at expedition flags, like Estus from Dark Souls or health flasks from Elden Ring. You will notice you do not have a local minimap. No individual area is that big, and most areas are one linear path with very short optional side paths which usually end in treasure or mini-boss fights, so navigation is never frustrating or uneventful. Here we have our first actual enemy, a Nevron.
Nevrons are a mix of geometric shapes, landscape architecture, elemental constructs, metallic lattice, or animal-like beings, without actually being animal. Their nature is to be other, to fit within the environment without being a native specific to it. Where they come from and what their purpose is, we will find out later, because it thematically links back to exactly why they're designed this way. The Nevron fight brings a new combat mechanic, free aiming. Hold L2 to aim, press R2 to shoot. Every shot costs 1 AP. Shoot an enemy's weak point for big damage, or later to dispel effects or even cancel attacks. When you equip a character with a weapon, it will change both the main weapon and the ranged weapon they have. Consider them a connected pair. Placing shots in combat reminds me of the quick draw mechanic in Red Dead Revolver or Redemption. There are entire character builds which rely on doing as much free shot damage as possible. The Nevron dies and fades away to nothing. No petals this time, just the chroma it was made of returning to the land. So we push on and can see elements of old Lumiere, a lamppost, a destroyed building, as if this place was once a thriving metropolis and has since been taken over by nature. But the fantastical elements really begin to creep in here, like the inky glow in the sky, the distant floating islands, and another Nevron body killed, impaled to the ground. We find some handholds on some rocks we can climb. No yellow paint here, instead we have striking gold veins to guide the player. The climbing is similar to Uncharted. You cannot fall, only jump from hold to hold. Eventually we reach a blood-filled cave with piles of bodies, all dead expeditioners, a mass grave for those who came before. Unlike the Gommage, though, they have died but not faded away, instead turning to stone, trapping their own chroma inside their bodies, not releasing it to the land. Red webs of veins and blood hang from the ceiling, and Gustav, separated from his group and ready to just give up, calmly sits among them and places his gun to his own head.
You do that, we both die. Hey.
Lune. The others.
I know.
It's just a matter of time before we're already dead. Look around, look.
This is not a foregone conclusion. When one falls, we continue.
It seems Lune survived. Practical as ever, even in the face of fear or certain defeat, she will remain steadfast and resolute, so she joins our party and a huge defensive Nevron attacks, and we get Lune's tutorial. Lune is an elemental spellcaster. Enemies can have elemental weaknesses to take more damage, resistances to take less, nullify to take none, or even absorb, where damage of that element will heal them. Lune's skills cost AP as normal, but her gimmick is every skill she uses will generate a certain elemental stain, or charge. Notice how the artistic creation theme is kept by calling them stains, and her battle cry is,
"Let the ink flow."
Lune can have up to 4 stains active at any time. They're shown on her character portrait and the 4 sections of the floating magical disc she uses as a weapon. You can see which colours of stains will be generated by each skill on its tooltip: fire, lightning, earth, water. Then light and dark. Light can count as any colour. Whenever you cast a spell, along with generating its stain, you will also attempt to consume an active stain to make that spell more powerful. For example, Ice Lance costs 4 AP and will generate an ice and light stain, and attempt to consume an earth stain to increase its damage. So casting that will give you an ice stain. Then follow it up with Immolation, which generates a fire stain, and if you have one active, consumes an ice stain for more damage. So while Gustav's has a singular builder mechanic with overdrive and a big spender payoff attack, Lune is about cycling through active stains, generating and spending them in chains of different sequences of spells. A few RPGs have done similar systems before. Several MMORPGs have caster classes with various resource cycling. Her starting Immolation and Ice Lance combo also brings 2 new mechanics: slowing an enemy, which reduces its speed and reduces the numbers of turns it gets to take, and burning, which applies burn stacks. Burn is one of the best combat tactics. An enemy can have multiple stacks of burn on them at any time, and some character builds are about stacking up absurd numbers of burn. You'll know an enemy is burnt when you see the little flame logo by their health bar, and how many stacks it has. That enemy will then take damage at the start of its turn. The burn damage formula is a bit odd. It's based on which character applied which stacks, that character's attack stat, and is then actually reduced by that character's defensive stat.
not the enemies. If you're metagaming, it does get a bit complicated. If you're not, just stack up as much burn as you possibly can and watch things die. The defensive Nevron then attacks our whole party with an AoE attack, but you can still parry, and if you parry a full party hit, you'll perform a full party counter for the highest damage. We take the Nevron down and earn the Dodger Pictos, which awards 1 AP on a perfect dodge once per turn, so it's time to explain the Pictos system. Pictos are items which can be equipped to a character to give them mechanical buffs. Pictos don't grant skills, only buffs, such as on free aim you have a 20% chance to apply a burn stack, or you take half damage but can't be healed, or even, when battle starts, this character instantly dies. That one sounds stupid, but it's actually really powerful in the right build. I'll show you later. A character can have 3 Pictos equipped. Notice how each Pictos, along with its specific buff, may also provide other benefits, such as boosting critical hit chance or increased HP, but that's just one part of this system. Once you've been in a battle with a Pictos equipped 4 times, you will master it. You can see the progress toward mastery in the victory screen as each side of the Pictos diamond is filled in. And when you master it, the victory screen will say, Lumina learnt. The Lumina is the skill the Pictos actually gives you. And once it's been learnt, or mastered, the passive buff becomes readily available through another system, the Lumina Point system. Remember the Color of Lumina item we got earlier? Using that grants one character 1 point of Lumina. You can go into the character menu to see how many Pictos you have equipped, but then you can go to the Lumina screen. This shows all the Pictos you've mastered. Each mastered Pictos has a Lumina point cost. You can now assign your Lumina points to activate that ability on that character even without having the Pictos equipped. Assigning Lumina points isn't permanent either. It's not spending it, just assigning. You can reset or change the points around at any time outside of battle, and you can activate as many Lumina as you have the points for. Each character has their own bank of Lumina points. You can find loads in the world, bosses drop them often, and you can buy them from merchants. So when you find a new Pictos, equip it, master it by surviving 4 battles, then have access to its skill to assign to every character via the Lumina system. It's important to note, activating the Lumina grants the passive buff, but it does not provide whatever extra bonuses the original Pictos gave, like the critical hit chance or the increased health. This system lets you build some truly broken characters by stacking multiple supporting buffs, and later we'll see if we can stack enough damage to one-hit kill an endgame super boss.
Mastering equipped Pictos is similar to the Materia system in Final Fantasy VII, and the system of gaining Lumina points and then assigning them freely to equip buffs reminds me heavily of the Mastery system in Guild Wars 1, reassigning points in safe zones to equip new abilities. In fact, the game's director has said before one of his most played games was Guild Wars 1, and it was then discovered he has an old YouTube channel where he performed no-hit runs of the Devil May Cry series, which is very vindicating because I was convinced he'd borrowed a mechanic from Devil May Cry later, and the research shows I was probably right. If you want another link to Final Fantasy X, there's a collection of Pictos called SOS, which automatically provide a buff whenever the character falls below 50% health, like SOS Shell, which applies Shell, which is somewhat similar to SOS Shell in Final Fantasy X, which casts Shell when the character falls below 50% health. Gustav and Lune journey on. With Lune in the party, you can swap to her model, which I prefer because she doesn't run but magically glides above the floor and doesn't make constant panting noises. And eventually, you'll reach an expedition flag. Resting at flags refills all of your potions, health, AP, and revive, and out-of-battle chroma party recovery. It also respawns all of the non-boss enemies in the area. So functionally, they're the same as bonfires from Dark Souls or Sites of Grace from Elden Ring. You can also use flags to fast travel to other flags within the same area. And while resting at a flag, you can assign your earned level points. So let's break those down. They're actually very simple. Every level you earn gives you 3 stat points to place. You have 5 stats. Vitality, which increases your total health. Might, which increases your damage, including the burn stacks you apply. Agility, which increases your speed and makes you take more turns in combat. Defense reduces all incoming damage, and luck increases your critical hit chance. Each stat maxes out at 99, and you can use a recoat to reset one character's stat points and reassign all of them. The recoats are pretty common and can be farmed from the mid-game onwards. But the Dark Souls similarities don't end here, because weapons have scaling with certain stats. Leveling Vitality won't always increase your damage, unless the character is using a weapon with Vitality scaling. Scaling works the same as you'd expect from Elden
Elden Ring. It has a letter showing how effective the scaling is from D to S rank, even a number in brackets showing the exact boost it's currently getting. We'll look at leveling weapons up later because once again it's very similar to Dark Souls. Back to exploring with Gustav and Lune, but another system. There are no random encounters in Expedition 33. Instead, enemies roam the world, and if they spot you, they'll follow you. And you'll get into a fight if you bump into them, which launches you into the turn-based battle system. This system is extremely similar to Jade Cocoon 1, 2, and Chrono Trigger. But you can start any non-boss fight with an advantage. Press R1 to throw a small burst of chroma energy out in front of you. If you hit a roaming enemy with this burst, you will always attack first in battle. We fight some more Nevrons and find a new sword for Gustav. Useful naming convention with the weapons. All of Gustav's weapons end in the letters AM. Lune's all end in IM. Other characters have the letters UM, ON, and ARO. So if you get a new weapon, you'll know who it's for. Characters can only equip their specific weapon. And while you can level weapons up, which we'll see later, if you happen to find a higher level version of a weapon you already have, it will be automatically leveled up to that version. Further in, we discover an upside-down mansion reclaimed by the Overgrowth and a chroma catalyst. We'll see what this is used for later. So we push on, and you can always see the monolith in the distance and the foreboding 33. Sightlines in Expedition 33 are exceptionally well constructed to always have the monolith either visible or hinted at. The fractured sky with the floating rock shards also all point toward the monolith, guiding the eye. Even battles within instanced areas often have the monolith in the background, which can be seen as the camera swings around with the characters. Everything is reminding you what an oppressive, ever-present force the Paintress is in their lives. And the color palette is now used to guide the player through specific areas. The tree we need to head to is the most vibrant thing in the distance, always visible. I'll bring up more examples later, but the art direction in this game, the dreamlike, fantastical, ethereal, impossible nature of the landscape combined with this gorgeous color palette is honestly an absolute masterpiece. We need to meet up at the Indigo Tree. That was the plan if the group got separated. We can see the tree, and across from it, this super creepy looking statue, a person split down the middle, light and dark, held together by tendons. This will matter later. We rest at the next flag and access the skill tree. Leveling up not only gives you stat points to assign, but also skill points, 1 per level. You can spend skill points to unlock skills in each character's tree, then assign those skills to a slot accessible in battle. You only have 6 skill slots, so as you unlock more skills, you'll need to choose your 6 favorites. This system is perfectly functional and similar to many RPGs like The Witcher or Dragon Age, or action games like the newer God of War. Skill points can also be reset by using a recoat, and the more powerful skills are at the end of the branches, making you somewhat specialize into a specific build. New combat effect, Mark. Applying Mark to an enemy increases the damage they take on the next hit only by 50%. So it's useful to combine this with a single big damage attack, not lots of smaller hits. Some skills also have extra effects if hitting a marked enemy. And now we get flying enemies. These will dodge most of, but not all, direct melee attacks or skills. So you need to use free aim to shoot these. Bit of combat variation, very nice. Gustav and Lune then discuss the state of chroma in this part of the world.
Blue trees.
Something's disrupting the chroma around here. Be careful.
I also like how they acknowledge that somebody else has set up these handholds.
Someone came here before and set up these handholds.
Probably Expedition 69. The Climbers Expedition.
Let us thank them for that.
I've always found it odd in games like Tomb Raider when they have brand new machine gun parts hidden in a 100-year-old cave or torches that are somehow still lit. Addressing small touches like this helps the characters feel real because they're noticing the same things as the player. Further in, we meet a white Nevron, but it's not an enemy.
Something's wrong with it. Why isn't it attacking us?
Well, it certainly attacked them. An expedition journal. 81. Learn from the ones who came before.
And lay the trail for the ones who come after.
Expedition 81, René. Huge discovery. This is the first Nevron with whom we've been able to communicate.
I love how Gustav finds this diamond, an expedition journal, in the cutscene and then listens to it, teaching the player they can do that. You can find journals from almost every expedition hidden around the world. They're all voiced and they offer backstory, some serious, some funny. There's also a shop later which rewards you Lumina points for each journal you have found, so finding them is both a narrative and mechanical reward. We then have more comments on the nature of chroma in this part of the world.
The dead here don't disappear like in Lumiere. Their chroma stays inside their bodies.
On the beach, some did disappear.
He wasn't a Nevron.
Something about the way Nevron's kills seems to affect our chroma.
Fall off this ledge and auto-roll on landing. The auto-roll will become a rather irritating feature when we try to precision platform later on. The white Nevron has asked us to reignite the fire in its lantern, so we set off to find some fuel. We find the new weapon for Lune and see the first special skills unlocked as this weapon levels. At level 4, the light rim makes all fire spells 1 AP cheaper. At weapon level 10, you'll do 20% more damage with fire spells, and at weapon level 20, you'll start a battle with an ice stain already. People ask what the best weapons in the game are. Honestly, it's whatever weapon fits the build you're going for. Want to use fire spells? This will probably last you all game. If you want a lot of free aim shots, there's a weapon which supports that. There are definitely powerful choices, but it's more about building to fit the weapon. We fight more and Gustave dies in battle, but Lune wins the fight. When this happens, party members revive on 1 health, so use a chroma elixir or find an expedition flag. We hunt round and find a revive tint shard. The tint shards for the 3 potions can be used at expedition flags to increase the number of uses each potion has. Eventually we find some flammable resin, return and give it to the Nevron, and they ask us for a spark, and in a lovely touch you can now use your free aim shot outside of combat to shoot the torch, and he feels all happy. The free aim shot in exploration mode is used to shoot some switches, find a secret boss, and unlock paint cages that we'll see later. Finally, we reach the indigo tree and look around for survivors.
Leo!
Fall back!
Putain de merde.
The tree boss fight also brings a new mechanic, shields. When an enemy has a shield, you'll see a little shield icon on their health bar. Enemies can have multiple shields. Every shield will completely negate the damage from 1 incoming attack and then break. This means if the enemy has 1 shield and you hit them for a single massive damage attack, it will do nothing except break the shield. The best way to deal with shields is lots of smaller attacks like free aim shots or skills with multiple hits. This means we now have attacking, free aiming at weak points, flying enemies, AP generation and spending skills, overdrive building with Gustave, stain cycling with Lune, dodging, parrying, burning, marking for increased damage, and shield breaking. All within the first 2 hours, and we've still got many more mechanics to go. The pacing of the increased mechanical complexity is fantastic. You're never overwhelmed. You're given a new thing, shown how to use it, allowed to use it, then given more new things. Then those things are stacked together with the previous. Stacking mechanics is the best way to build complexity while keeping the player agency in focus, and Expedition 33 does it so incredibly well. But what really elevates this fight is the music. Laurent Testard, the composer, was discovered through his posts on SoundCloud. In fact, the whole process behind the team that made this game is insane. An ex-Ubisoft employee posts looking for help to make a game on Reddit, gathers some friends, makes a small demo, secures some funding, founds the company Sandfall Interactive, and sets about making this game. Expedition 33 is the result of a passionate bunch of developers making a demo, a proof of concept, then getting funding and spending that on exactly the right things. And they even went on to say the only reason they were able to make this game was because they didn't need to constantly answer to corporate interests or investors demanding changes.
Many aspects of this game's design are stunningly good for the team size and development time it had, but the music shines. It carries the emotion of every scene, from dark, melancholy, emotional and hopeless to resilient, grand and inspiring. The soundtrack actually reached the #1 spot on the classical music chart in May 2025. I can't play too much of it due to copyright, but the music in this game took me from quite sad to genuinely sobbing, and then it took me from quite excited to actively pumped to take on an epic boss. The music in Expedition 33 is nothing short of absolute perfection.
This fight also highlights another lovely hint system. Enemies have different combos, all parried in different rhythms, but you'll also get a line of text hinting at the incoming attack. This text starts specific in the early game, saying things like 3-hit combo incoming, or 5-hit combo, or a single powerful hit. But it becomes vague later in the game, like enemy prepares a powerful blow, or enemy attacks quickly. But the line is always the same for each combo from that enemy, so learning the line helps you learn what you're about to need to parry. Winning this fight also has a super cool effect. It leads into a cinematic takedown, but the fight UI remains on the screen, merging the turn-based feel with an in-game cutscene to really drive home the feeling of, you did this. Defeat the boss and reach the Indigo Tree, where we find a strange message.
Putain, nobody.
Wait, there's a message on the wall. Took mile to the weird corals. Head north, look for a door inside a hut.
Clair.
This doesn't make sense. Who would have written this? Doesn't sound like anyone on the team. What if it's a trap? The man on the beach?
It's a lead. Our only lead. Whoever this is knows Mael. We have to go.
No. Not yet. Protocol is to regroup at the rally point and wait 3 days. This message feels off. If it was an expeditioner, they would have stayed here.
Things change in the field.
There's a reason.
Protocol doesn't cover every contingency. You know that.
There's a reason. It's protocol.
I really appreciate the argument between Gustav and Lune, especially talking over each other, which is something not many games do. They're both flawed humans with flawed human reasoning, doing what they think is best in a realistic way. Lune doesn't want to deviate from the mission, even if for a friend. Gustav won't leave Mael, even if it's not protocol. And this is the first instance of both people being right and wrong, which is a major theme of Expedition 33. There are no right answers, only choices which are beneficial for some people and detrimental to others, which you can understand. You can even disagree with, but still think they should have been made. So we leave this location and reach the Overworld, simply called the Continent. I've been saying flags allow fast travel within your current area, and this is what I mean. Areas are all self-contained zones accessed through the Overworld. They've done the classic Final Fantasy thing of zooming the camera out and changing the scale of the landscape, character models and environment assets to give this Overworld exploration feel. Areas you can enter into are shown by these swirling vortex gates, and for now we're limited in where we can actually go. Lumiere is to the south and the Paintress is to the far north, so we head north. We journey past some destroyed buildings, ignore or attack the roaming enemies, and eventually Lune suggests we make camp.
It's been a long day. We should make camp.
I'm fine. Let's keep going.
We won't find Mael if we're dead.
The camp is a safe, instanced zone where you can chat to your party and heal, like the campsite in Dragon Age. While here, we have a chat to Lune.
So, we can rest a bit, but, the moon is bright. I want to keep moving.
Have you learned nothing from the beach?
No, I am not leaving Mael alone a minute longer than I have to.
But right now, it's just the two of us, and I don't want to bring Mael your corpse. We have to think every step through. The man on the beach, you saw what he did. He must be, what, 50? 60? Yet he survived the Gommage. We don't know who we're dealing with. We lost everyone in an instant.
Exactly! He killed us all so easily. He doesn't need to fake a message. I am not letting Mael die out here. I'm taking her home.
What? No, no, no! We have a mission!
Oh, fuck the mission! Fuck the mission, Lune! What are we gonna do, huh? Tell me. What are we gonna do? We're gonna take down the Paintress, just the three of us? My gun and your sparks?
I didn't take you for a coward.
I'm not a coward.
You swore the oath. When one falls, we continue.
Yes, I know.
When one falls. When one falls. Not if. When. We knew not all of us would make it. But we continue.
It's important to notice Lune's focus on the when, not if part here. When one falls, we continue. Lune is reminding Gustav of the inevitability of death and the focus on pressing past it, not wallowing in it or refusing to accept it. She knows death is likely, and those who remain must continue. The themes are being reinforced. You can also use the music player at camp to play the records you find, and the currently empty areas will be filled with others when we find them. Every time you rest at the campfire before you return to the overworld, you have a chance to write in Gustav's journal for his apprentices. This is a short but sweet reminder of what you've done, and it always ends with the line,
"For those who come after."
Another phrase to push the fact that the past cannot be changed, but we can use the lessons of the past to build a better life for those who remain. The expedition ethos really is about giving others what they themselves cannot have. The message we found on the tree talks about a hut within some coral, and close by we find the Flying Waters Zone, an overground, underwater fantastical place, with fish swimming by, bubbles of air rising to the surface while not being underwater, coral, and the bodies of Expedition 68. This zone is the first sign of what an artistic powerhouse we are really in for. It's gorgeous, and a new mechanic, paint cages. They're basically treasure chests. You must shoot 3 hidden locks to open them. The locks look like pustules of ink attached to the landscape. This is similar to the statue locks in Dragon Age Veilguard, and the paint cage reward increases our chroma elixir use, so it's always worth doing. And soon, we find a new Nevron with a few new attacks. If an enemy has a combo where it hits multiple party members but only one at a time, you will still succeed the parry counterattack if you've successfully parried with whoever it hit last and every previous hit on them. So if this enemy hits Gustav, Lune, then Gustav again, as long as all of Gustav's parries worked, he will still counter. The coral here is combined with a human-like framework to create something altogether more alien, and then a fight with Nevrons holding little sea mines like balloons. So of course we shoot them and they explode, harming the enemies, which is lovely design. You're putting the player into a situation they know, even though they don't know everything about it, and then they're using mechanics you've explained before to do something relatively new and rewarding that thing.
By now I've reached level 7 by just doing whatever fights I ran into, and this matters because it's possibly my greatest praise for the game. Just like Chrono Trigger, one of my favourite old games, you don't need to grind to do the critical story path, the main narrative. It's paced so well you'll always be around the right level, as long as you engage with the enemies you naturally run into. Now you can grind if you want to. You can complete the game without parrying or only parrying, but the general pacing assumes you'll parry a bit, heal a bit, and the fights will remain challenging but not unfair. This is just the main storyline, remember. The optional content, that's a different story entirely. You'll need to grind for that.
Deeper in Flying Waters, we find the hut the message told us about, and inside a strange ornate door. We open it and get magically transported away as the camera pulls back to reveal we are being watched. Gustav and Lune then awake to find themselves inside a grand, opulent mansion.
Where are we? This is...
Mael!
This manor will be important. We can explore around and find paintings of locations we recognize: the Monolith, Lumiere, Spring Meadows, and Flying Waters, along with loads of places we don't recognize yet. There's also one prominent painting notable for its absence. It's the only blank canvas, and on the first floor we find an open door, and inside...
Mael?
Gustav? Are you real? Well, you sure smell real enough.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have, I should have come for you, and
It's okay. It's okay.
I was worried.
Made it. I remember everyone at the beach. Then I woke up here with him. He's been helping me a lot. He reinforced all my Pictos.
What is he?
I'm not sure. He doesn't really talk.
The chroma around him. It's quite different from the Nevrons.
Mael joins the party, and that super creepy faceless thing, the Curator, guards the exit. He's actually been training Mael to fight. He doesn't seem evil, just powerful, and we have to fight him to leave. This brings two new mechanics. The first is Mael's stances. Mael starts all her fights in natural stance or stanceless. Using a skill then puts her into one of three stances. You can tell which one you'll go into by the icon in the upper right of the skill tooltip. She'll remain in that stance for the next turn, giving that turn's ability an extra bonus, and then return to stanceless. Or switch into another if you use a skill that makes that happen. So you put her into a stance using a skill, then get to take advantage of that stance on the next turn. Essentially, you're planning one turn ahead. While in defensive stance, she'll take 50% less damage and gain an extra action point for any dodges or parries. While in offensive stance, she will both take and deal 50% more damage, including damages she deals in counterattacks. And the hardest stance to get into is Virtuous, where she deals 200% extra damage, essentially tripling her damage output. Skills which end with switching to Virtuous stance often have extra requirements, like Swift Stride, where you need to attack a burning enemy, or Last Chance, which also reduces your health to 1. Certain skills will have extra effects if performed while in certain stances, and the utility of offense and defense means she can tank large incoming hits and then hit back extra hard. We can see her stance-swapping gimmick has some crossover with Lune's elemental attacks, as Lune can consistently burn enemies, and then Mael can use that to get into Virtuous stance. Then Gustav can mark enemies to increase the next big hit, which Mael can perform from Virtuous stance for massive damage. We've effectively been given a perfect flowing series of attacks which all stack together tactically. The next mechanic in the Curator fight is jump counters. Sometimes an enemy will go for a big smash attack. The text line will usually say smashes the ground or jump attack incoming, and you'll see this symbol flash up. When this happens, prepare to jump. And if you time the jump correctly, you'll not only avoid all damage, but then get a chance mid-air to press R2 and fire back with a ranged attack counter hit. Attacks which must be jumped over always have this flashing symbol as a warning, and for now are performed alone. As in, there's no other regular attacks with them. We take the Curator down, and Mael says he can join them back at camp if he wants to. And after this, we meet Noko, a Gestrel.
Noko's usually here. I wonder where...
Is that a Gestrel?
Stop that, you big hairy brush face.
Can't you see they're human? Noko's a bit dramatic, but if you're nice, Noko will trade you lots of useful items for chroma.
Gestrels are paintbrush creatures, childlike, inquisitive, always ready to go on an adventure or have a fight. They like being merchants too. Mael explains that we're going to kill the Paintress, and Noko says there's actually another ocean between us and the monolith. But don't worry, if we head to the nearby Gestrel village, they will help us cross the ocean. So off we go. Now you'll be able to find Gestrel merchants throughout the land. They sell some cool stuff, but they only sell their best stuff if you challenge them to a duel and win. So make sure to beat up all the Gestrels you find to get the coolest stuff. Remember, with Mael in our team, she won't have any stats assigned, so rest at a flag and allocate them all. For now, I'm throwing everything into Vitality to give myself some survivability if I miss a parry. As we return through flying waters, you'll notice a massive sea creature swim above. You can't reach it now, but later, if you want to, you can fight that. Mael has one of the first double QuickTime button presses in combat, and by beating the first enemy you'll see outside the mansion, you'll get an upgrade for her weapon, which is a lovely design touch to remind the player engaging in fights is often very rewarding. Round the corner, there's a Nevron forging something. So we fight it, and then we get the weapon it was forging, meaning not only was there a mechanical reward related to the enemy's in-game actions, but the weapon, a sword for Gustav, is made of coral. That's lovely design. More fights in flying waters and some new enemy tactics. This guy applies shields to other enemies, so now you're learning to take down the defenders first, and finishing any fight with a jumping counterattack always feels cool. We find some more expedition journals, and notice how they don't refer to a massacre as a bloodbath, but instead...
It wasn't even a battle. It was an ink bath!
Everything is linking back to artistic creation. Further on, we spot an absolutely massive Nevron in the distance. This game has done an excellent job at showing impressive scale. The sheer size of the enemies, the open areas, it's imposing, intimidating. but they're not overwhelming to play through. And around this corner, we run into a slightly smaller version of a still massive Nevron. And if you feel brave, you can fight this. This thing starts with one of the only undodgeable, unparryable attacks by just straight up eating Mael. Some enemies have attacks which remove party members from combat, often by eating them. When this happens, you need to build up the enemy's break bar, then break them to make them spit your characters back out. This Nevron also has a miasma spit attack which can be parried, but if it hits you, applies the status exhaustion, meaning you can't gain action points, and this lasts for a few turns. And as our break attacks need AP, this can be a very annoying status. Burn stacks end up saving me and Mael wins the fight alone. This rewards us with the augmented counterattack Pictos, increasing counterattack damage by 25%. Optional mini-bosses like this are always worth killing because their rewards are often super useful. At the end of Flying Waters, we reach a field of flowers, and when we go to pick one, we anger another large Nevron. This is the next boss, Gobloom. His special tactic is halfway in he will summon flowers. Now you can free aim over the flowers, but notice your crosshead does not change to a red angled version, meaning this isn't an enemy, but it is still a mechanic. You can shoot it. If you don't, the boss will draw power from the flowers next turn and heal. So now free aim is being used to prevent mechanical advantages, not just do damage.
Defeating this boss gets us a Shape of Health, which permanently upgrades our in-battle healing potion, going from 30% heal to 65%. I like the use of percent as it means it will scale with our increased health pool and never become irrelevant like basic potions do several hours into any Final Fantasy. The limited selection of only having 3 potions, which refill when you rest, means you're never caught in that feels-bad loop of I won't use this because I might need it later. Then you end up finishing the game with 99 Mega Elixirs. It makes items worth using and really speeds up the pacing.
Press onwards toward the Gestural Village, but Mael is beginning to have rather vivid nightmares.
I've been having nightmares.
A new character we've not seen before. And then Gustav and Mael talk more about the mission.
Still too far.
Being out here isn't what I expected.
As expected.
Death out here is not like death in Lumiere, is it? I thought I was used to losing people. I've have a foster child, right?
Nevrons we were prepared for, but not. Look, if death approaches, I want you to run. No, promise me. Run. Especially if we meet the man from the beach. We can't face him. You see him, you run.
Only if you do the same.
Oh, I'm running as soon as I see a strand of white hair, trust me. You won't even see me, I'm running so fast.
Oh, please, you're an old man. I can outrun you any day.
Yeah, right. There was a time when 30 was young, you know.
Sure.
We can now find the Curator, the creepy faceless man, at camp. This is where we upgrade our weapons, so let's look at that. The upgrade system is very similar to Titanite from Dark Souls or Smithing Stones from Elden Ring. You need different qualities and amounts of Chroma Catalyst to upgrade weapons. Basic Catalysts take weapons to level 3. Polished goes from 3 to 9, Resplendent from 9 to 19, Grandiose up to 32, and to max a weapon from 32 to 33, you need a perfect Chroma Catalyst. These are rare drops from super high level bosses. There's no extra Chroma cost for an upgrade, you just need enough of that catalyst. You can grind them from enemy fights or keep fighting until you find the higher level weapons as you go. You'll also notice there's no way to upgrade your armor. That's because your armor is a purely visual thing. Your defense comes from your defense stat and your equipped Pictos, not what you wear. Similar to Final Fantasy VIII with the junctioning system. Sometimes when at camp, when you go to leave, you'll have the option check up on the others. Always do this as it starts short cutscenes with some narrative, and I love how even in the cutscenes, when the characters are standing talking on the cliff, you can still see the monolith in the background, the foreboding 33. It's really unescapable. Back to the journey for the Gestural Village, we head into the forest of crimson trees and find a Patonk. This enemy runs away from us. If you can chase it to the correct end zone, it will finally stand still and now you can fight it. But be fast because you've only got a few turns to kill it before it runs away. If you're able to parry its attacks, you'll get yourself another turn. Killing one always awards decent loot, similar to the loot goblins in Diablo. Inside the forest, we then find the ghostly image of a faceless young boy. He says he remembers 2 people, their names beginning with R-E and C-L-E, but he has forgotten the rest. This ghostly child will appear a few times, and if you pay attention to him, you'll slowly piece together the plot. We reach the edge of the Gestrel village and trigger the intruder alarm, which is just a bunch of Gestrels shouting, but they've got a secret weapon, the Sakapatat, which is a crudely built defender construct made of pillows, random bits of wood, and a cannon.
Oh, fuck.
Hey, we're not Nevrons!
Sakapatat also means bag of potatoes in French. But this fight has a gimmick. Sakapatats can be damaged. See the glowing shoulder joint. Shoot it enough times and you can shoot its arms off, removing either a shield, a sword, or a cannon. But be careful. After defeating any Sakapatat, they have a desperation attack, stumbling forwards and crashing into the party, so dodge when the slow-mo effect happens. It seems the construct was powered by this little guy, and he walks us to the village. Along the way, we can see the Gestrels have invested in defense, a punji pit filled with dead Nevrons. The path is also lined with static Gestrels. They're life drawing models, artists' references, and paintbrushes. We reach the village, but now must face the ultimate Sakapatat. We are informed, yes, the last one was invincible, but this one is even more invincibler. And this guy combines things. Its shield sweep attack needs you to parry and then jump, the first combo attack needing different reactions. Mechanical progression. And we can see the shoulder is weak, but the shield blocks it, so you need to shoot the face to make it play the stagger animation, which briefly reveals the weak spot, which you can then shoot 2 free aim shots into a mechanic. That's a nice touch. This fight is where some people struggle. Parry timings are tight, but eventually it will go down, and we are brought to meet the chef of the Gestrels.
It's really a village of Gestrels.
They seem better at surviving than humans.
I guess intelligence is not a prerequisite for survival on the continent.
If you bought the broken Pictos from back at the Gommage festival, you can give it to this merchant who fixes it for you. It's a 50% increased damage in free aim mode Pictos, which is a major boost for gunslinger builds. We then learn about Gestrel culture. When they die, they're stored in these jar-like things, and they can respawn at the sacred river. This is the first touch of reincarnation, and the idea that maybe things aren't as final as they seem in this world, which clashes with the themes of acceptance and finality that we've been working through, but this does get expanded upon later. We then reach Golga, leader of the Gestrels, and we ask for her help crossing the Northern Sea. We learn the Gestrels also know about the white-haired man. They also fear him, but if we want to pass the sea, we'll need to find Esquier.
There are so many questions I'd love to ask.
We need to get to the Paintress. Noko said you could help us cross the sea.
Humano, pinkorinko tempestres.
Others have passed through here.
Dumba kaka expeditiono. Kato matomaro. Gororito bota?
A white-haired man destroyed it.
Surimoto priva. Me respecto. Nima Cuba. Rico esque koranisuga watero.
So Esquier exists.
Esquier is an extremely powerful being, so to prove we are strong enough to meet him, we must enter the Gestrel combat tournament and win, beating 3 Gestrel champions and then a mysterious 4th fighter. The Gestrel tournament is a series of one-on-one fights. You get to choose who fights. It's mostly a parrying test, but the important thing here is the winner of the 4th fight will receive a special weapon. This means only one member of your team can get it. Now, there are ways to get this weapon for everyone else later, but this is the only way to get it early, and it happens to be one of Mael's best weapons, so using her is advised. The 3 Gestrel champions go down pretty easily, but that mysterious 4th fighter, well, who could that be?
Sia?
What? How? You guys? You're alive! I thought I was the only one left.
Turns out it's Sayel, one of the expeditioners. We saw her standing on the deck of the boat during the initial launch.
Sayel is voiced by Sharla Nix, a veteran of the industry known for Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk The Phantom Liberty, and Space Marine 2. She brings a sense of simmering confidence with a hint of secret past. Sharla, anything to add?
Not now, Josh. I'm
Beating up Gestrels.
Of course you are. I find her very intimidating.
Understandable.
Now, interestingly, if you win the fight with your chosen fighter, you get the weapon. If you lose, Sayel gets the weapon. Whatever happens, she will then join your party.
Well, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah, it really just felt like beating old people.
So it wasn't so bad.
Am I one of those old people?
One day, I hope. Hey, how'd you end up here?
Oh, after the beach, I ended up in an odd yellow forest, not too far from here.
You get the choice to play or skip Sayel's combat tutorial. So it's time for a new system. Sayel has two mechanics. The first is stacking up Foretell. She fights by throwing tarot-style cards or slashing with a giant scythe, which is thematic because she was a farmer before joining the expedition. She can stack up to 10 Foretell stacks on the same enemy, then use her skills to consume the Foretell stacks and do extra damage. Her other system, which happens at the same time as that, is the Sun and Moon cards. Skills which generate Foretell stacks generally give her a Sun card, and skills which consume it give her a Moon card. When Sayel has both a Sun and a Moon card, she will go into Twilight Stance for the next 2 turns. While in Twilight Stance, you can stack up to 20 Foretell on an enemy, and you'll do 50% more damage, increased to 75% if the enemy has maximum Foretell stacks. But as good as Sayel is at damage, she shines mostly in group support, with powerful group heals and buffs. And her system of setting up Sun and Moon cards to activate Twilight Stance was to me reminiscent of Golden Sun's Jin system, activating or setting your summons to either do damage or go into a healing stance, and then setting up multiple to access big damage or big heals. Having beaten the Gestral arena, Golga tells us the password to access Esquier is to shout,
"Get out my way!"
The password is get out of my way.
Very Gestralish.
Fantastic, very Gestral. I also love this little secret, a Gestral casino. If you try to go in, they'll ask you a maths question about probability and percentage, and if you answer, I don't care, he agrees and gives you a Pictos, which will either randomly halve or double the damage of any attack. We find another strange door linking back to the ornate manor, and once we leave the village, we can return to camp and chat with Sayel.
You okay? You've been quiet since we left the village.
Yeah, sorry. Just bad memories.
Wanna talk about it?
No.
No.
But Mael is still having nightmares.
Do you feel something?
Alicia, I told you to stay home. It's not good for you to see this. It's her fault, and she doesn't even know it. But you can't be here.
What are you talking about? What's my fault? What is this?
You should never have come. You're only going to make things worse for everyone. Now take your friends and go home. Let them spend their final year in peace. This is your only warning.
I can't wait to see.
Maya?
Hey.
Hey. Hey.
It was him. I saw him. The white-haired man and this woman.
Important style choice. All in-game cutscenes are full screen, except the monochromatic nightmare sequences, which are done in a 4:3 aspect ratio, an older standard. The visual switch differentiates these sequences from the rest of the game, making them feel more othered, the shape of the frame becoming more claustrophobic and canvas-like, an old memory. Mael sees a young girl with a burned face, wearing a shattered porcelain mask. She will matter later. The weapon you win at the fight arena if you use Mael is the Medallum. This weapon lets Mael start every fight in Virtuous stance, which is the triple damage stance. Combine this with some first strike Pictos and damage buffs, and she is about to become a one-hit damage machine. I like how the game also gives you hints on where to go by characters just reminding themselves.
We can debrief along the way. Let's head east to Esquier's nest.
An excellent design touch here is we now have 4 party members, Gustave, Mael, Lune and Sayel, but you can only use 3 in battle. If our party of 3 all die, you can then choose to send in your reserve team. In this case, it's just Sayel. You'll see the dramatic last stand of Expedition 33 text, so you only truly lose when all your characters are knocked out, not just your starting team. The other lovely system is experience is shared. Characters not in your active party will still earn experience from battle, just at a slightly reduced rate, so you'll never over-level 3 specific characters, and your reserve team are always decently strong. Just be aware you cannot swap party members mid-battle. There's no changing team composition once a battle begins.
See that giant face on the mountain? That is Esquier's nest. En route, we also meet a lost Gestrel and invite him back to our camp. There are 9 of these in the world. Find all of them for some costume unlocks and the Pro Retreat Lumina, which lets you run away from battle in a single turn instead of needing to survive an entire party turn. Eventually, we reach the Gestrel guarding the nest and give him the password.
Golgra said to shout the password as loud as we can. Well, Gustav, you're the loudest.
Really? Hey.
Come on, don't be shy.
Get out of my way!
Jeez, tu pochino ma parino.
No, it's just that it's the password.
Pico femicola, gor granda bare bombino, passwordito. Gomiku rapito sava.
Look, I am very sorry. It's just that Golgra told us that's the password, and
Come on, it's a Gestrel. He'll have forgotten in about a minute.
Perfect Gestrel behaviour. He doesn't even know what the password was, he's just standing here. The caverns beyond are gorgeous, lamps hanging in the air, a wondrous aura all around, and at the end of the path, we meet the immensely powerful Esquier.
Bonjour, mes amis.
Hey, bonjour mon ami.
Ciel?
What? I don't know. He seems nice.
Oh, it's you. Hello again, my terrible swimmer friend. You finally come to learn to swim?
No. I'm not that fond of water.
Actually, that's sort of why we're here. We need to cross the sea. Golgra said you could help.
We really need to cross the sea. Would you please help us?
There's a lot of you to carry. I'm strong, but I'm not that strong. I will need Flory.
Who's Flory?
One of my rocks.
Rocks?
See? Flory helps me swim. But Flory was stolen by my arch nemesis. The one whose every step shakes the foundation of the world. The one known as... Francois.
Let me guess. Francois is located deep in Nevron-infested territory, right?
Oh, no. He's right next door. Over there.
Oh.
Francois is my neighbor.
Remember that Esquier knows Sayel is a bad swimmer, but never explains how he knows. We'll loop back to this later. For now, we need to go and get the magical rock Flory back from Francois, who is just sort of chilling in this side cave.
Who dares enter my lair? You can't just walk into someone's home without knocking. That is incredibly rude.
Is that... Are you Francois? He's just a talking rock.
Wait, I thought Flory was the rock.
A rock? I am not a rock. Do you have rocks for eyes? You certainly have rocks for brains. I am clearly a turtle. Esquier! Stop sending hooligans over here!
Stop being a meanie. They're nice humans.
Then keep them on your side of the caves! Now get off my lawn!
The Francois fight is a parrying or dodging test because his super powerful ice beam attack is a one-hit kill for anyone. So we defeat Francois and return Flory the rock.
That's not Flory.
Ha! I never had Flory! Your rock is still on the Stone Wave Cliffs!
He got me good.
Wait, does this mean you won't help us?
If you promise to get me Flory, then we can be buddies.
Can't you swim without Flory? We saw you flying just now.
Oh, you're much too heavy. I need my rocks.
Turns out that wasn't Florrie. Florrie is in the Stonewave Cliffs somewhere. Even without Florrie, Esquier agrees to help us, so on leaving the cave, we find this journal with a bit of foreshadowing.
Damn you, Esquier, and your stupid mushrooms. Your friend ate them with no problem, but it also seems your friend was immortal.
Back outside in the overworld, you can call on Esquier and ride him around. He can smash through the blue rocks that lead to the Stonewave Cliffs. Mechanically, he's just an overworld vehicle, and like the vehicles in Final Fantasy VII, goes from the buggy to the submarine to the Highwind, each travelling over land, underwater and through the air. Esquier will slowly gain more ability to travel to more places in the same order. But before we journey through the Stonewave Cliffs, Mael asks you to camp, which brings her more nightmares.
I see why you like throwing rocks.
You've been quiet since you saw those people.
It felt like they knew me. Like, actually knew me. I'm always missing something that everyone else just gets. In Lumiere, life never made sense, and I never fit, and now out here, when it was just starting to maybe feel good, then this happens, and...
Yeah. I hate it too. Things we don't understand. They just make us feel small and powerless. But it helps, you know, to focus on the things I do understand, on the people I care about and who care about me. And, you know, now I feel a little less lost, because at least we're lost together. What? What? Stop it. Too cheesy? No.
The monolith, a burning mansion. Visions or memories? Mael and Gustav then share a moment throwing some more rocks. I love this simple but cute, shared, repeated motif. The futility of the actual rock doing any damage, but the determination to throw it anyway. But her nightmares intensify, and now she hears a woman's voice.
I envy them. Those who can't see. Those who know not that they are not. And those who live, blithe and free, sins forgotten, and thus absolved, while we live in shadows, swimming in ink. Those who know not that they are not.
That will make sense when we have plot context. Into the Stonewave Cliffs, we see a massive destroyed Ferris wheel, a remnant of a previous failed expedition who tried to use a huge wheel to cross the sea. And then we see how powerful Esquier truly is.
Mes amis, Florrie's close. I can feel it.
Come on, you can fly. Can't you get Florrie yourself?
Oh no, too much effort.
So, wait. Esquier is that powerful?
Apparently so, but also lazy.
Floating lanterns and Giant's Causeway-style hexagon rock pillars and the Nevrons continue to match their environment, as we're now fighting either bundles of tentacles carrying those same pillars, or golems made of pillars wielding massive clubs with crystals sticking out of them. Inside the Stonewave Cliffs, we also face these new enemies, the Great Sword cultists with long white swords. These are powerful, and they stand out from the other Nevrons in a way that I will explain later. A new weapon for Sael. Always applies 10 Fortel stacks, the maximum outside of Twilight stance, but the damage she takes is doubled. For my playstyle, this is not worth it. Keep on journeying through the Stonewave Cliffs looking for Florrie the Rock, and when enemies start taking multiple turns in a row, you know it's probably time to start putting some stats into agility. We find a strange shrine to the Paintress.
The Paintress destroyed our world, and someone built her a shrine.
The weak-minded turn to whatever they can to explain the unknown.
And then further in, a farm.
Looks like a farm.
Like old times, eh?
This is absolutely not the place you would build a farm. How is it here? Why is it here? This makes no geographical sense. We then find another completely white Nevron, like the lantern holder from earlier. This one is also friendly and asks us to bring it some crystals so it can look like the others. This is another side quest, and you can descend into these caverns to find the crystals, which leads to this lovely fake out. That looks like the crystal you need, but if you walk up to it, it's actually a disguised Nevron. But when you fight and win, it still drops the crystal you thought it was. Beautiful design. We platform over some stalagmites and find more expedition flags. My only critique of this system is you don't rest automatically when interacting with a flag, which means you don't refill your health or consumables if you forget to actually click rest. We head down this very creepy tunnel and the lanterns begin to pop into life as we go, lighting our way. And at the end, in the dark, we reach the next boss, the Lamp Master. Looking like something straight out of the Hand Mansion from Elden Ring with a spectacular boss theme to match, the Lamp Master is a great fight. You can shoot the lanterns to turn them off and prevent a powerful charge attack, but this fight brings a new mechanic, dizzy. If a party member is dizzy, their manual free aim will now constantly move, making aiming harder. This is a lovely way for a turn-based RPG mechanic to actually affect the player's mechanical input, not just change some numbers around. And eventually we defeat the Lamp Master, but just as I was thinking, this is a bit easy for a boss.
Easier than expected.
Hey, don't jinx us. No need to invite misfortune.
What's happening?
Misfortune.
It's a two-phase fight, baby! The Lamp Master rises into the air, the open cliffside with the monolith visible in the background, and even more mechanics. Sometimes you'll see the lamps light up in a certain order. If you ignore this, the Lamp Master will use a huge damaging attack, but if you shoot the lamps in the same order they lit up, you will cancel the attack and do some damage. A nice touch here is, shooting usually costs 1 AP, but if you shoot the correct lamp, you'll get that AP refunded, so you can always do this mechanic. This was a great fight with another great team kill cinematic at the end, and with Florrie the Rock recovered, we jump back down to Askia. But Mael asks if we just want to throw one more stone.
She doesn't seem that far now, does she?
Yeah. Wanna throw one more rock?
The others are waiting, but...
You might reach her.
Okay. Ooh, what about that one? Well, you know, like I always say, it's not about the rock. It's more about... Run. Why are you doing this? We've done nothing to you. We should be on the same side.
The white-haired man wounds Gustav, but he stands firm and protects Mael. We fight, and your attacks do nothing. He is far too strong, and eventually Gustav calls on all his power for one final attack.
For those who come after.
yet understand. But this is a kindness, not a cruelty.
You let her come. You know she's too weak for this. How could you let her take such a risk?
You only care when things are right in front of you. My sweet child, you are supposed to stay home. I told you not to worry. But since you're here now, just stay put. This won't make sense to you now. But we both want what's best for our families. I'm sorry you're caught in the middle, but I did try to warn you. It's been a while. Stay out of this. You chose to walk away.
You've lived more than a lifetime. It's time to let her go.
A lifetime. A lifetime with my family torn apart.
It's okay. I'll handle things here.
You've set us down this path. But are you ready for the consequences?
She'll never paint again.
Ciel.
This seemed important. If you want to reach the monolith, the best path is through the quarry up north.
Who are you?
And where did you get that expedition uniform?
Strange way to say thank you. Sorry I couldn't save your friend. I'm wearing an expedition uniform because I, too, am an expeditioner.
What? What do you mean you're an... I've never seen you before.
First expedition. Expedition 0.
Expedition 0? But how are you alive and not...
Old? I don't know exactly, but some of us stopped aging and were not affected by the Gommage.
Some of you? Like the man on the cliff?
Anwar, our commander.
Why? Why did he massacre our team?
How could he turn on his own people?
He believes his immortality is a gift from the Paintress. Killing her would kill him too, and he enjoys living forever.
And you don't?
Burying everyone you know while you live on can weigh you down a bit.
So, if I want to kill Renoir, I have to kill the Paintress first. What's your name?
Verso.
Gustave is dead, and the mysterious man who defended us delivers his broken arm to the camp, and we learn about the white-haired man. Gustave's death heralds the start of Act 2. While in camp, we now play as Verso, the mysterious brooding guy with a streak of white in his black messy hair, expertly voiced by Ben Starr, everyone's favourite shining-faced brooding boy.
Ben, anything to add about Verso?
Not now, Josh. I'm dyeing my hair, so it does the cool white streak thing.
Understandable. It is a very cool white streak.
Verso is immortal, and has been in the world since Expedition 0. Then, in an emotional gut punch, Mael throws just one more rock.
I'm really sorry I didn't arrive sooner. He was your brother?
Something like that.
Losing family is difficult.
I know. I know what you're going to say. You want to offer your condolences. You want to say something comforting. But I don't need it. I've had enough condolences. I've lost so many families now. I just need... Can you please go?
Back on the overworld, Florrie gives Esquier the power to swim. If you check the world map, our next goal is marked with a red diamond, the Forgotten Battlefield. We need to pass through here to reach Minoko Station and recruit an ally Verso says we will need to defeat the Paintress. But as you can now swim, you unlock access to some optional content.
I love the pacing of this. The moment you enter the overworld, you have maybe 1 or 2 optional places you can go. Then with Esquia's rock smashing ability, you unlock 3 or 4 more. Now with swimming, 5 or 6. The world is slowly unfolding in front of us, but you always have the guiding path of the main narrative. I have pushed for years for video games to have defined objectives for those who like that or need that. Maybe they don't have a lot of time to play games and want to feel they're making progress toward the end, but then also have optional side content or exploration rewards for those who do have more free time and want to veer off the beaten path and go and find stuff themselves, and Expedition 33 does both extremely well. It is a 15 to 20 hour linear RPG, with 10 to 15 additional hours of completely optional stuff with both mechanical and narrative rewards.
Swim to the forgotten battlefield, but Mael, understandably, is still grieving Gustav.
Wait. Could we bury Gustav?
I wish we could, but protocol is to keep moving. Gustav would understand.
We can look for a suitable place along the way, yeah? We'll find a nice spot.
Actually, there is a place. Past the quarry, out of sight of the Paintress. A tranquil haven, protected by magnificent trees. Let me show you something.
Verso then joins our team, which brings both his gimmick and a new combat system. Let's look at Verso first. Every time Verso lands an attack or parries, he gains a level of perfection. With enough perfection, he increases his rank from D up to S. You can see the letters filling up as he lands more hits. However, if he gets hit, he loses ranks. Verso's attacks do more damage the higher his current rank, and some skills have additional effects if used at a certain rank. There's one which boosts him from rank D straight to rank B, or one which reapplies a stun if he uses it at rank A, and some more powerful ones which have a reduced cost if used at max rank S. Verso's perfection and rank system is undeniably inspired by the combo scoring system in Devil May Cry, where Dante gains a higher multiplier if he keeps hitting enemies. Remember, the director has an old YouTube channel where he used to upload no-hit runs of the Devil May Cry games. Verso is all about that style. He truly is the storm that is approaching. The other system which is introduced in this fight is gradient counters. Sometimes the enemy will perform a powerful gradient attack. The color will drain to grayscale and this dropping sound effect happens and the slow-mo kicks in. To counter this, you must press R2 instead of R1. Important to note, the timing of the parry is still just before the attack hits you, not when the grayscale animation starts. This is just a visual reminder the next parry is a gradient parry. And if you successfully parry a gradient attack, you'll do a gradient counter, which is much more powerful. We go to cross the forgotten battlefield, this glorious entrance shot of the portcullis raised and broken, light streaming through the metal bars and the monolith ever present in the distance. But do note Verso's offhand line here foreshadows a boss.
These are all expeditions?
A single Nevron took out most of them.
Is it still around?
I've only seen it once, many years ago, so most likely not.
The battlefield is a bit of a difficulty spike, especially if you've not built into defense or getting your parries down. These things can hit hard, and their weak point is shooting them through the tiny holes on their helmets. There are also trumpeter enemies which buff the entire enemy party and have horrible parry timing windows when they attack you. By now everyone's hit level 20, and it's important to note I've reached here without grinding. This is all through just playing the critical path with a little bit of side exploring. 3 enemies guarding a single item, so you know it's good, and I love the little touch where if Verso dies, he asks,
"Did I die again?"
The battlefield is, as the name suggests, a long series of fights, and here the game does show some environmental limitations. You can climb most ledges, but not others, and visually, sometimes it looks like you should be able to climb something, but you can't. There are invisible walls everywhere here. It's not a platforming game, but the platforming it does have needs to be visually consistent, and here it just isn't. Speak to a fading ghost of a woman. She won't talk, but if you switch to Mael, she'll say, "We shouldn't get involved because of what happened before." Ooh, ominous. I also like how Lune then calls back to Verso's line from earlier.
Looks like we passed the danger zone.
And no sign of your special Nevron.
Oh, I guess we're lucky.
There's also a secret enemy here, a chromatic Nevron. These are hidden all around the world and are a superpowered version of regular Nevrons. Defeating them offers powerful Pictos or special weapons, but good luck beating them when you find them. They are designed to be returned to later and beaten at a much higher level. I die here, whole team and Sayel wiped out, and when you die the game just auto-loads to right before the fight you died in, which is great. You don't lose much time or progress. The only irritating thing is there's no way to restart a fight that you're in the middle of and know you're going to lose. That would have been a nice touch. We passed through the battlefield and reached the bridge on the other side, but walking past so much death has taken its toll mentally on Mael.
Hey. You holding up? We're almost there.
Holding up. Everywhere we go, just death. Death and more death. Everywhere we go, just death. I don't want to see that anymore.
Look, Mael,
I thought you would understand. You said you spent your immortality burying the people around you. Doesn't any of this bother you? And you. Gustav's dead. How can you keep going like nothing happened?
We need to continue.
Why do you...
Mael, you know what we must do. When one falls,
Mael being unable to accept the reality of death or process it when someone so close to her dies is a very strong narrative note that we'll circle back to later. The bridge is then smashed by a giant Nevron, the party fall into a literal lake of blood, and the powerful Nevron mentioned, the Duelist, attacks us. This is the first fight which combines regular parries, jumping counters, and gradient counters all in a single combo. The music is still absolutely top-notch, the fight is exciting, and eventually, after beating it, of course, it has a second phase. This fight reminds me heavily of Pontiff Sullivan from Dark Souls 3, the dual flaming and magical swords hitting hard and fast. You need to parry an 8-hit combo which ends with a gradient counter. But interesting fact here, if the enemy ends a combo with a gradient attack like this, you only need to perform a successful gradient parry with R2 to get the counter attack. You can actually miss all of the earlier parries, only the last gradient one matters. The Duelist also introduces a new status effect, Inverted. While our characters are inverted, they'll turn black and white, and all the healing they receive now harms them. Similar to the zombie status in Final Fantasy X, which is a problem because we're on low health. A victory here leads to another cinematic takedown. This always rewards the Dueliso weapon for Verso, which allows him to take a second turn instantly if he ends his first turn with a regular attack. We leave the cave, cross the broken bridge, and reach the red tree where Verso suggested we lay our last relic of Gustav, his mechanical arm, to rest.
Couldn't wait for me, could you? I wish we could.
Rest easy, Gustav.
I'll finish what you started. The Paintress, Renoir, they will pay. We could never tell if you were my brother or my father. But to me you were both. Best brother and father I've ever had.
When one falls, we continue.
Thanks for being my family.
With this done, Verso discusses the next steps to reach the Paintress.
We head north to Monoko Station.
Why there?
To recruit my oldest friend. We'll need the extra firepower, because our next goal will be to take down the Paintress' heart.
Her heart?
Yes. You can't just stroll up to the Paintress. The chroma there is far too dense. It erases anyone who gets close. But if we destroy her heart, the barrier will fall.
Okay. So where is this heart? What does it look like?
What it looks like That I don't know, but I do know that it's somewhere in the center of old Lumiere.
You found old Lumiere?
Yes.
So it's true. Before the fracture, our Lumiere was part of a larger city on the continent.
I've traveled with many expeditions. I was with the 58th when we found old Lumiere. But Renoir erased them before we could get further. And I don't know much more.
At this point, you can chat to the people at camp, and the game will ask you if you want to spend more time with them. This is the relationship system. It's not focused on romance or sex specifically, but more emotional connection, with some flirting with Sayal or Lune. Progressing a character's relationship unlocks their backstory, some new abilities for them, and some side quest locations, but you can do this at the end of the game. You can't lock yourself out of the important rewards, so we'll do this later. Lune and Sayal then have a heart-to-heart chat, and this scene caused a bit of a stir, as many said it heavily implies that they are now in a relationship with each other. And if it does, honestly, good. We know they have history together, and I think after what they've been through, this pairing would actually make sense. It's in this scene where we learn how comfortable Sayal is with herself, and how she knows that she has flaws, accepts them, and tries to live life as her unapologetic, genuine self, which will matter soon. We also get more scenes with Lune, which really drive home again how focused she is on the mission and how nothing will distract her from what she knows needs to be done. Not friends, not family, nothing is more important than the love for those she has lost.
I've tried many ways of dealing with it. Running from it, sitting with it, compartmentalizing it. But what I needed was to use it. I feel everything. And I let it burn inside me. I used the pain. I used the fear, the shame, the guilt, the anger. I use it all to keep going. To make sure I continue.
Mael also slowly starts to accept Verso and even gives him a gift.
Hey, why did you join the expedition? I mean, with the Gommage, I understand the rest of the team's decision, but you're half their age.
Out here seemed better than in there at the time. Wait. I kept Gustav's, so you can have mine. You'll need one if you want to be an official member of our merry crew.
I gotta say, I didn't take you for an official kind of person.
Welcome to the disaster expedition.
Thank you.
We need to head to Monoko Station, but notice how we could instead go to the painting workshop. The game gives you, however, the big red danger warning. This means we are not the recommended level. You can try, but we'll come back here later. We reach the station, this frozen over twisted mass of mountains and train tracks.
Follow the tracks. They'll lead us to Monoko.
A train. Gustav would have liked to see that.
Is it true before the fracture, Lumiere had trains running throughout the continent?
Always running late, but running, yes.
Deeper in, we meet Verso's friend, Monoko, a gestural construct.
Slow as ever. More beautiful.
Your reflexes remain sharp as ever. I approve. Eskia, did Verso pull you into another adventure? New friends.
You speak our language?
He had a lot of time to kill, so I taught him.
Ladies, could I, interest you in a duel?
Definitely a gestural.
No point trying to talk until we've calmed Monoko down with a relaxing fight. Be careful though. Monoko's fighting style is a bit, peculiar.
So of course, we fight. Monoko's unique style is he turns into a Nevron for his attacks and uses the Nevron skills. There's more to it, but we'll see that soon.
No distraction, son. I'm really busy beating up strangers.
Monoko doesn't join us just yet, though. He wants to see us beat up this massive ice Nevron first.
As honored guests, the first fight is yours. Defeat the Stalact with your fearsome talents.
You little coward.
The Stalact fight brings another new mechanic, gradient attacks. Consider this a shared limit break bar like in Final Fantasy XIV. Every time you use a skill which costs AP, the gradient attack bar fills up slightly. It can hold 3 full charges. Whenever it's your turn, you can spend a charge to have the active character perform one of their 3 gradient attacks. You start with 1 unlocked and unlock more through progressing the relationship system. Using a gradient attack usually hits for big damage and, importantly, does not count as that character's turn. So you can use a gradient attack and a regular skill too. This is super useful because it has combo functionality. For example, Lune's gradient attacks remove the enemy's shields, Mael's put her into virtuous stance, Monoko's hit twice for high lightning damage and break. And when you win this fight, Monoko will take a quick look at the Nevron's body and then chat to Verso.
What are you doing?
I just need the foot. Aha!
He transforms by collecting Nevron feet. Don't ask me how it works. I've never understood.
Now that we've had some good battles to warm the spirits, to what do we owe the pleasure of your company?
We're heading for old Lumiere.
Okay, bye.
Hey, come on. Hey. Hey, look. I know we failed before, but look, you doofus. Don't you recognize her?
Of course I do.
Then you know what that means. This is our shot. It might be our only shot.
This is your only shot. Out of the question. I will never join you again.
There will be a lot of fighting, though.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's true.
There will be a lot of fighting.
Exactly.
Count me in then.
Good.
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 Yes, good.
Noko's coming too.
As a responsible parent, this is a superb idea. Let us go to old Lumiere.
Monoko is voiced by Rich Keeble, a veteran of British TV. Rich, want to be in the video?
I don't have time to be in your video.
We'll get a lot of views.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's true.
It will get a lot of views.
Absolutely will.
Count me in then.
Good.
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 This is one of the best aspects of the game. Expedition 33 is really funny. Yes, it's got a serious world with serious problems, but just like how real people face serious situations with humour, the characters do too. They can laugh at themselves or each other. They're snarky, but not in a hollow, Marvel one-liner quippy type of way, in a more genuine back-and-forth, pre-established connection way. The writing reminds me of the inter-party banter in Dragon Age Origins or Mass Effect. Comedy is used in spite of the horrific situation to ease the tension, and this gives it a greater emotional depth. Being able to laugh at something and then have the same thing make you cry minutes later is what makes an emotional roller coaster, the ups and the downs, and Expedition 33 does this masterfully.
With Monoko on the team, we get his tutorial and his 2 gimmicks. The first, the Wheel of Masks. While in combat, Monoko will always be wearing one of 5 masks, shown by the mask wheel to the right. Consider them similar to Mael's stances. They are purple for Agile, blue for Caster, orange Balanced, green Heavy, and the golden Almighty, which counts as all of them at once. When Monoko uses a skill, 2 things happen. The first is the skill checks which mask he is currently in, because each skill has an extra effect if used while wearing a specific mask. Like his starting skill, Stalact Punches, which does more damage if used while in Heavy Mask, or Shalia Combo, which does more damage while in Balanced Mask. Then, after using a skill, the mask wheel will advance. You can see how many places it will advance shown on each skill's tooltip. So Monoko's main gimmick is moving from skill to skill, focusing on skills enhanced by the current mask, and advancing the mask wheel with each skill use. His gradient attack limit automatically puts him into the Almighty Mask, so any next skill is always powered up. But Monoko also learns skills in a different way. Instead of gaining skill points on level up and advancing through a skill tree, he learns Nevron skills by being in your party whenever you kill a new Nevron. He will then collect its foot, eat it, and learn its skill, which is why he starts fights by saying,
"My lovely feet."
This system of learning skills by hunting down rare enemies is very similar to the Guild Wars 1 skill capture system, where players could kill a boss and use the signet of capture item to see a list of skills the boss had and replace the signet with a boss skill. Expedition 33's director has been a long-time Guild Wars 1 player, saying it's one of his most played games, so this skill hunting system is definitely a homage to that.
I'd like to point out how much I appreciate the pacing of introducing new characters alongside new enemy systems. Gustav as your first character gets you the combat system initially. Then, for a brief moment with Sophie, we have the parry 3 times in a row tutorial. When Lune joins, we get the first enemy AoE attack with party counters. When Mael joins, we get the first jumping counters. Sael as the 4th party member introduces us to the mechanic of losing your main team and having the reserve step in to finish the fight. Verso introduces the gradient counters, and Monaco brings gradient attacks. Each new party member brings not only their own fighting gimmick, but also an overall increase in the complexity of battles, meaning a new party member brings utility and survivability, yes, but also more problems that you now need to deal with, balancing out the positives of having more party members with the negatives of, but now the enemies can kill you in more ways.
It's worth taking Monoko in your party so you start building up his Nevron moveset, and with him acquired we can head through Monoko Station toward the ruins of Old Lumiere. The way is blocked, but Monoko is rather strong. Maybe a bit too strong.
We'll need a way forward.
The heart is in the center of the city. All right? Show off a bit, Monoko.
Just admit you can't do it yourself.
Monoko! Why the hell did you...
I'm sorry, I fucked up. I just wanted to show off.
We just have to regroup. The others should be fine. Verso said the heart is in the center of Old Lumiere, right?
Right.
Monoko has cleared the way, but Verso and Mael have suddenly gone missing. This is the classic mid-game split-the-party trope. Chrono Trigger did it on the ship, Final Fantasy VIII has you make several different parties over several different times, so we adventure on as Lune, Sael, and Monoko. One mechanical aspect of this I like is being forced to use Monoko and then getting into a fight instantly gets him a foot, so you are shown how his gathering system works right away. The enemies here are again tougher, but Monoko's skills used on the right masks make short work of them. We even find a new weapon with a mechanical difference. While equipped, this mask wheel is now advanced on parry as well, letting you manipulate it to the mask you need easier. See that massive sword? Different to all the others, sticking out of that massive dead thing. Well, both of those will be important later. I'll circle back when it becomes relevant. Just remember that we've seen it. We find another ghost-like faceless man. He says he paints them so he can remember their faces. And then Sael finds another ability stone for Esquier. Lune and Sael chat, and both of them agree neither trusts Verso.
He seems to be our best bet for now. We lack too much information.
Do you trust him?
I trust that he wants to reach the Paintress, so for now, our interests are aligned.
58. They were the ones that Verso was traveling with.
I believe so. Verso is... Is this true?
Mael's with him.
We need to go, now!
Verso would never harm her.
Lune then finds a journal from Expedition 58 and learns something shocking, but we don't discover what she has learned just yet. Now we move on and play as Mael and Verso. I love the dramatic tension created by the knowledge gap here. With a party of only 2, parrying now becomes a bit more important, as we adventure together through Old Lumiere to reach the Paintress's heart and drop the protective barrier. Verso gets his new lightning strike skill, which needs 2 rapid button presses to happen. Failing one of them actually cancels the skill, so high risk, high reward. And then, he's gone, and Mael is left to wander alone.
We're a pretty good team. Verso?
Old Lumiere is a battleground of dripping chroma, swords of light sticking into the ground. Some ancient and terrible powers clearly fought here, and this is the aftermath. And the enemies we face here reflect this. They are faster, armed, and have high health, and eventually we reach a large, ornate manor. Mael approaches, the door opens, and a faceless woman greets her, the burned-face girl by her side.
But just before she can head inside...
I knew you'd open the door for her.
Really, Verso? This was your plan? How many times must you hurt our family?
No, you don't get to lecture me on family.
Why do you refuse to see I am doing this for us? You haven't told her the truth. Have you, son?
Right, can we talk about this later? I'd really like for you all to survive this.
Shocking revelations and a very good boss fight. Renoir, the white-haired man from the beach, and Mael's vision, is Verso's father. Why he's killing everyone, who is the woman or the burned-faced girl, that comes soon, but for now we have to fight and we have to win. Renoir's combos are brutal. Many multi-hit attacks, lots of AoE, a mix of parrying, jumping, and gradient counters are all needed. And if you miss a few parries in a row, you're dead. He even says the most brutal battle line toward Verso.
I'm not angry, just disappointed.
Worth mentioning now that Renoir is voiced by Andy Serkis, the man who motion captured and voiced Gollum in Lord of the Rings and Caesar in the Planet of the Apes franchise. Renoir has some brutal attacks, including one called Vanish, which just erases a party member if you don't dodge it. They're not dead, they're gone, and will remain gone for the rest of the fight. His combos also get progressively more difficult, actually gaining extra hits the longer the fight goes on. It's a beautifully made fight. And in cinematic style, I finish with a full team counter, but Renoir is far from done.
Everyone all right? Okay.
His final desperation attack kills Noko, the Gestral child. And as he goes to kill Mael, Verso shouts and calls her by a different name.
Why can't you accept who you are?
Mael then has another dark vision, the burned-faced girl, the mansion on fire.
Will you tell me your name?
And then she snaps back to reality and the mansion disappears.
No. Alicia.
With the Paintress's heart lost, we head back to the camp. Minoko cradles the dead body of Noko, now entombed in a Gestral death jar, and they discuss the theory of reincarnation. And even though it is possible, Minoko makes something very clear.
The stories say that Gestrals reincarnate. Is that true? Can you bring Noko back?
Partially. We can bring Noko back to life. But not all of Noko will return. It will be a different Noko. The one you knew is gone.
Narratively, this is a major note. While it would look and sound like the Noko we knew, it would just be a close copy. So we have established that the recreation of life is not the same as the original life. Lune then mentions, even though we've lost access to the Paintress's heart, the journal she watched explained another way to destroy the barrier, and Verso reveals more about his family.
I wasn't hiding it. If that's what you're implying. It's a dead end.
Wait, what are you talking about?
There is someone else who can help us. Is it true? Can you make a weapon that can pierce the barrier? Do you need something from the Axons? Do you need their hearts?
Look, to create this weapon, he needs enormous amounts of pure chroma, which is way beyond what we can get from Nevrons. The only source are Axons, yes. But like I said, that's a dead end. It's impossible.
Why? What are Axons?
They're massive creatures living on islands around the monolith. They're much stronger and much more dangerous than Nevrons. I can't die, and I still couldn't take them down.
Yet we found the corpse of one in Old Lumiere, so it's possible.
I don't know how that one died. But I'm telling you, listen to me, please. Our chances of taking them down without you lot dying are close to zero.
Close, but not zero. Death is coming either way.
So, the masked person with Renoir, that's your sister? Not a hard leap to make.
Her name's Alicia.
What's wrong with her? She wears a mask all the time, she never talks, and she's always staring.
She was trapped in a fire a long time ago. Damaged her face and her throat, so, do you want the armband back?
What?
I feel like a fraud wearing it, given, you know.
Wear it anyway. You said you chose your side, right?
I did. You're not upset with me?
Strangely, no. I hate secrets, but Gustav always gave people the benefit of the doubt. And your actions are what matters. I trust you.
Thanks.
So Alicia is Verso's sister, and Mael just looks a lot like her. We also learn about the 3 Axons, massive powerful constructs made of immense amounts of chroma. If we could kill them, then the Curator could forge a powerful weapon, powerful enough to break the Paintress's barrier. Sael gives Esquier the stone we found in Old Lumiere, and Esquier can now smash through the coral reefs while swimming. Despite there being 3 Axons, only 2 are accessible for now. Both are on islands just south of the monolith. One of the islands is covered in theatrical masks, the other a draped colosseum. But you can just try to swim up to the Paintress if you want to do that.
This looks similar to Lumiere's shield dome. Maybe we can just cross it.
I'm telling you, we can't. Axons first. It's okay, you'll be fine. You want to try again?
I'm okay.
I love the fact they included that cutscene to call you out on even trying it. We need to kill the eastern and western Axon. We're told the western is a bit easier, so go there first. We land on the island of Visages.
So this is Visage Island?
He who guards truth with lies.
Are those faces?
The Axons have rather cryptic representational names. This one is He Who Guards the Truth with Lies. We head inland, and the giant floating sky masks actually greet us.
It's not attacking.
Oh, I'm harmless. You don't need those.
Well, if you're harmless, then these weapons will stay harmless too.
Touché. Well, Visage invites you to join him in his chamber at the end of this path. I assume that's why you're here.
Where do the other paths lead?
You're free to traverse them. Masks are not just to obscure, they may also illuminate.
So we could go meet the boss right now, but instead, let's explore. We head down one of the 3 paths and suddenly hear the sound of a stage light turning on, and the grass switches to a vibrant green, lending this entire area a theatrical, fake veneer. We walk into the giant mask's mouth and are teleported to the Joy Vale, where everyone is happy, overly happy. Smiling faces, laughing, dancing, excessively so, and more fights. But there's a key difference here, and it's a small design touch which will help us with some narrative understanding later. Up to now, most Nevrons haven't had faces. We can go back and look at what we found. The opening enemy has a blank spot, or they were just geometric shapes and twists of metal. The underwater enemies are just flesh and coral. The enemies at the saltwater cliffs were animated chunks of rock and pillars. The early bosses we fought were mostly faceless. The hand creatures we saw on the beach had no faces. The defensive Nevron, the battlefield Nevrons had their faces covered. They were creations of purpose, matched to their environment for battle, but not of beauty. The lack of a face makes them less relatable.
The Axon Islands, however, are the first places where not only does almost every enemy have a face, but they're often the visual focus of both their design and their battle animations. These dancing flower bearers, or the tiny hat enemies sitting on a giant hat, smiling and laughing as they summon more hats. Even the creepy contortionist enemy around the corner has its face front and center, always visible. Later we'll see an armored warrior whose entire shield is a literal face, and the fact that these Nevrons can see you, and you can see them, will matter narratively later. We fight through the strange-faced Nevrons and reach a giant mask. We answer its riddle with joy and start a mini-boss fight, spitting out 3 enemies. The joy mask fight is tedious, as this mask will keep healing the central dancing flower wreath Nevron, and this shield bearer will always counterattack unless you shoot its shield to cancel the counter. And the hat guy will throw hats at you, and if they land, they will exhaust you, preventing AP gain. But after a few burn stacks helps me out, we take down the Joy Mask, and as we return to the central area, we hear a distant roar. The Axon is in pain.
You hear that?
That was the Axon.
Destroying these masks seems to hurt him.
Then let's keep doing that.
Another route from the flag gets us to the Vale of Sadness, low blue lights, slow music, and the Nevrons looking rather pitiful.
I know they're Nevrons, but witnessing the sorrow of others, I can't help but feel for them.
A noble but tremendously fatal impulse.
We then find Journal 39 and an interesting idea.
Maybe if I wore one of these masks, they'd leave me alone.
So the previous expedition discusses wearing the masks and being left alone. The theme here is showing the world what it wants to see, or what you think it wants from you, instead of feeling how you actually feel. Masks are simple, they're easy to wear and easy for the viewer to understand. There's no room for doubt or uncertainty. Show the world you're happy, and the world will think you're happy, even if beneath the mask, you're far more complicated. Take on the Mask of Sadness boss. Notice how it's the same 3 enemies, but this time the hat guy is the central focus, and instead of healing, the giant mask constantly casts exhaustion, meaning no AP regen, meaning no AP to use free shot with, and the mask guy is flying so melee attacks miss a lot, causing sadness. Eventually I take this guy down mostly through parrying and counters, and eventually the Sadness mask dies too. Back to the flag and the final path, the Veil of Anger. Red, chains of bodies flowing through the sky, fire and brimstone. It's worth having Monoko here, as one of his abilities can hit through enemy shields, and deeper in the anger zone we find another entrance to the strange ornate manor. We head through and find a recording of an unknown man.
Art can be a window, and art can be a mirror. And great art is both. Son, you'll never be a true artist if there's always a mask between you and the viewer, especially when the viewer is you.
Return to the island and take on the Anger Mask. This time the shield guy is the central enemy, and the mask gimmick is it will yell out and force the enemy to take another turn. Music is again an absolute banger. It's even got lyrics this time. With the final mask mini-boss down, we return to the central flag and head down the final path. Run up the mountain and through 3 different emotional states of joy, sadness, and anger before reaching He Who Guards Truth with Lies. The Axon fights are pure Final Fantasy energy. Massive, fantastical constructs, complex attack patterns, beautiful visuals, over-the-top, grand, sweeping attacks. They are an absolute joy to fight, and of course they all have unique mechanics. You don't actually attack the huge towering He Who Guards Truth with Lies construct, you attack this mirror on the battlefield, likely done so the attack animations work with the correct distance to the enemy. But from this mirror, various masks will emerge with glowing eyes. You don't actually need to kill the boss, you just need to shoot the glowing gems of the mask's eyes. And then when they try to retreat into the mirror, they explode instead, and then a new mask appears. You have to survive several powerful attacks, some of which will build shields or could wipe your entire party. But after you've cycled through every mask in the mirror, the Axon will perform one final desperation attack, which will take the entire party to 1 HP. And then, the real fight begins.
People want so badly to know what's behind the mask. Front, back, recto, verso.
Harmless, huh?
He's the real Axon.
Child, we all need masks, but how you use them.
The Mask Keeper is the Axon. He guarded his own identity with the lie of a massive construct, and now we fight him. He is fast, high damage, and can call on a load of shields. If you haven't destroyed the 3 masks on the island, he will also call on the benefit of all of them. And notice how this guy fights with 1 long sword and 1 short sword. Narrative storytelling, I'll explain that soon. The Mask Keeper fight is a wonderful challenge, getting new attacks and eventually a buff where every hit it lands will generate a shield, so dodging and parrying is encouraged, or using Lune's gradient attack, which destroys all shields. But be aware, if you die to this phase, you have to fight the first phase again. And when you finally win, it too has a desperation attack, calling on the emotional power of the masks, and how deep down we all wish we could hide who we are and show the world only what it wants to see. But one of our party isn't like that. One of our party is brutally, openly herself.
This mask can't hurt me. Because it is me.
Sayal is able to resist the allure of wearing a mask and rip the chroma from the Axon. There are 2 ways to read this. Either Sayal is actually presenting a mask at all times, no one knows the real her, and her own masked personality is so strongly defined the Mask Keeper couldn't add one. But personally, I prefer the reading that Sayal is so open about who she is, she cannot be made to hide behind a mask. But the most important line of this cutscene actually comes from Verso, and it's a very short line.
That was Verso, wasn't it?
That is a major plot point in a throwaway line. Remember that. 1 Axon down, we return to camp to give the chroma to the curator, but he will only accept it from Mael. And when she hands it over, she has a flash of lucidity.
I saw...
What happened?
I saw... It was... Renoir?
I used to see him in my nightmares too. He can be quite traumatizing.
Mael and Verso then spend some time together on the cliff edge. Verso plays the piano, Mael recognizes the music, and they both exist peacefully in the shadow of the monolith. 1 Axon down, Esquier swims across to the Colosseum draped in cloth and luxury, and we enter Sirene.
The architecture looks very different here.
This kind of place never existed before the fracture.
It's beautiful. Feels surreal.
Is she the Axon?
She's manipulating your emotions. You have to focus. Remember why you're here. Be careful. They call her She Who Plays with Wonder. But what she really does is play with your head.
Notice how the characters become charmed in the cutscene and start slowly dancing. That matters, it will be a mechanic later. She Who Plays with Wonder is at the very bottom of this massive arena, so we use these little wrapped moving platform guys to fly on down. The Colosseum is filled with new Nevrons, these ballet dancers, beautiful and deadly. Lots of complex multi-hit combos, and they're all flying, so you need to use free aim. They do, however, give a load of experience, making this one of the best mid-game grinding areas. Oh look, it's the cultist which stabs itself to generate a load of shields. Be a shame if someone were to just ignore them entirely. God, I love Monoko's utility. Time for a new effect in battle, the Cursed status. When you get cursed, you'll die in a certain number of turns. How many depends on what cursed you. There's no way to avoid it, so win before that happens. Good luck. Very similar to Final Fantasy. Down here we also have more super rare chromatic enemies, including the Chromatic Cultist. This thing heals shields faster than I can deal with them, but thankfully by just spamming free aim shots and waiting for him to slowly whittle down its own health, it goes down, and I win. Barely. Then I realized Monoko was dead and I didn't get the foot, so I reload the fight and do it again. Give me your attack, you stupid Nevron. My only complaint so far is how many Pictos and Lumina you end up with and how there's no search function. So I cannot search for the words burn or shield or aim, and setting everything up can take a while. There's no presets you can save. You also cannot see how much a Pictos will cost to equip as a Lumina, unless you go into the Lumina screen. Would be useful to have that information in the original Pictos tooltip, because some of them are expensive. Honestly, the whole Pictos and Lumina system for passive buffs is mostly mechanically fine, but can be fiddly to work with
when kitting out 3 characters. Eventually, Mael accepts her true position as a machine gun and shoots everything down fast, and I just love the flowing, graceful ribbons in the distance, the golds and the reds. The entire area is one of opulence, grace, excess, and comfort. The soft fire, the ambient music, it's all designed to entice you to relax, to dance. Even the enemies are now balls of ribbons and cloth, and the rooms have twisting strips of fabric and walkways up and around. Lune even says,
"Feels like home."
It's an isolated prison devoid of people focused entirely on the pursuit of a creative work. Of course, Lune likes the single-minded focus of the place. We fight on past this new enemy, a water basin holding a massive spear. We meet the silence status for the first time. When silenced, you cannot cast spells, and we hit 9,400 damage. So let's talk about the damage cap. For now, you cannot hit more than 9,999 per hit, that's the cap, and most enemies are balanced around you approaching that limit a few times per fight. So if your theoretical damage would be 20,000, it will still hit for 9,999. This means that multi-hit attacks now get more useful. Hitting for 4,000 5 times is more useful than hitting for 9,999 once, as you wouldn't lose any damage. This limit gets removed soon, but for now, I quite like it. It means enemies are balanced, challenging, but still fun. Eventually, deeper in, we find the Tissure, a giant sewing Nevron, endlessly creating fabric for she who plays with wonder. Now, this Nevron isn't aggressive, we can skip it, but we really want what it drops, so we take it on. The Tissure always starts the fight by cursing the whole party. We have 8 turns to win, and its combos are brutal, shooting fabric creatures at us, sweeping its giant arms, throwing sewing needles, silencing us, slamming the ground for jump counters. It's a challenging fight, but when killed, rewards us the anti-charm Pictos. It's worth taking this and putting it on someone to master it so we have access to the Lumina for the whole party. We take on Glissando, the giant fabric worm. This enemy can eat a party member and must be broken to spit them back out. It can also charm a character. If someone gets charmed on their turn, they will attack one of our own party. You can parry the charm attack, but the timing window is tight. This is why we killed the Tissure for the anti-charm Pictos. Nice touch though. If someone gets charmed, shoot the Glissando's shaking tail to break the spell. Defeating this always unlocks a new outfit for Lune, the Seren dress. We prepare everyone with Pictos and go and take on the Axon, she who plays with wonder. She has a force of mental domination and will show you what you truly desire. Lune sees her parents. Sayal sees her husband and child. Mael sees Gustav. Monoko sees Noko alive again, and Verso sees nothing. But we'll shake off the daydreams and fight. She Who Plays with Wonder is another brutal boss fight. High damage attacks, tight parry timings, multiple target hits, the ability to summon a host of ballet dancers, and when the final act begins, more dancers with different weapon types, with each one pausing a different amount before attacking, making the parry rhythm all broken up. This is a good 20-minute fight, and if all of your party get charmed at the same time, you will automatically lose. And once killed, just like the other Axon, she has a desperation attack where she simply charms everyone. But just like Sayal not needing a mask, Lune has always been focused on the mission above all else. No distractions. Nothing is more important than breaking the cycle of the Paintress, so she alone is able to resist the temptation, face the Axon head-on, and rip its chroma from its body. We take the fabric the Axon drops and head back to camp, hand that to the curator, who forces the chroma from both Axons into the powerful Barrier Breaker sword. And in a lovely narrative and mechanical design touch, this is not just a cutscene item, but an actual usable weapon for Mael with a unique effect. It will steal shields from enemies and give them to Mael. It's one of the most defensive weapons. With all that we need to break the barrier, everyone unwinds a bit at camp before the final day.
SK and I had a chat.
I'm sorry, Versmore. She promised me sweet rocks.
Is that wine?
I stored my personal stash inside him. All excellent vintages.
But as Verso stands alone on the cliffs facing the monolith, he is joined by the black and white burned face girl and given a letter.
You embrace her, yet you're condemning her to die. I'm not here to fight. But my son, do you know what it means to disappear into nothingness? Have you thought through the consequences? Not just for you, or even me, but for them. Their memories, their dreams, their love for each other. Who really is the one painting death, and who paints life instead? We exist, and we will exist for as long as she wants. Sometimes we paint the bars of our own prison. Your despair blinds you. You think you're ready to pay the price. But are you willing to let them pay the price for you?
Verso's family dynamic is definitely confusing, and what are the consequences Renoir keeps talking about? Regardless, we return to the monolith base, and with the power of the barrier breaker, Maëlle brings down the Paintress's shield.
We can do this. For Gustav.
Finally, we reach the monolith, run down a long, candle-lit path, and arrive at the base of the massive construct. Time to bring it down. We start attacking, but everything we do is nullified. We can do no damage at all. But then Maëlle has more visions.
I don't think this is...
Everybody okay?
Follow her, quickly.
The giant construct that paints the number is simply that, a construct. The Paintress is the faceless woman, and we follow her through a portal she makes and end up inside the monolith. Inky skies, paint streaking across the landscape, picture frames floating around, and a destroyed world, all seemingly patched together from places we've already been. The journey through the monolith is essentially retracing our steps through similar places. We fight through a different version of Spring Meadows where Gustav woke up. We fight through another version of Flying Waters, the underwater coral reef, and the music for these areas and fights is just phenomenal. We even find a new enemy, the split mannequin being called Clair, and then its twin, Obscur. So quick art info, Clair Obscur is a rough French translation of the artistic method of painting chiaroscuro, which involves using extreme contrasts of light and dark in an artwork, usually a painting, to enhance the illusion of depth and dramatic impact, from brilliant whites to inky blackness. It's a defining trait of how it uses extreme lights and darks to enhance everything in between. The fight through the monolith and the recreation of our original path, itself implying a repeated cycle of events, is quite a long one. We reach a red forest representing the Gestrel village and take down another ultimate sack of patat, back through the stone wave cliffs, and here we see visions of memory drawn in ink in the air. A man sat next to a woman as the woman gets up to leave.
This moment then happened, and I'll play my live recording audio because I think we can all relate. Nope.
We reach a new version of the forgotten battlefield, bodies held in stasis above us, as if a recreation. It's important to note you're not playing through exactly the same level layout. It's not a copy-paste. They're not reusing the previous area, but making a brand new area representing the previous. Close enough, but still different. I also love what Monoko says if he dies in battle and gets resurrected.
I am filled with murderous rage.
The monolith interior is just a close approximation of our journey so far, and either represents the outside world or has been made to, because eventually we find Gustav's grave under the trees, and close to it another entrance to the strange manor, and inside, a memory from a woman.
I want rage to consume me. Anything to fill the hollow. The person I cannot be around is Alicia. Her pain is a broken mirror. The shards reflecting back tenfold, and every moment with her the cuts deepen and I feel myself unraveling.
We'll cycle back to this later when the plot needs it. We fight through a version of Monoko Station and inside find the faceless ghost boy again standing by a train. He says Maman made him this train and offers to take us to Lumiere. So we go, arriving in a version of our Lumiere, but this one is filled with those high-level protector nevrons. The city itself is fractured, held together by a massive metal lattice seen down below. And if we sneak around the back streets, we can find this hidden mini-boss, the Clair Obscur.
This boss combines the high AoE damage and the shielding support skills of both the Clair and Obscur enemies, and hits often for high damage, with multiple combos needing both normal parries and gradient counters. Winning this fight gets us a new sword for Verso and a foot for Monoko, and eventually after 2 hours of battles we reach the heart of the monolith and another encounter with Renoir.
You.
We're taking her down.
She's not the only one who grieves. The pain of losing you she made me inherited. Punishment, perhaps, for not being there when it mattered. I refuse to lose my son.
That son was a stranger.
But you're not. You're not.
You lost me years ago, and I lost you.
If saving you means losing you, then so be it.
The line, "She made me inherit it," will make much more sense soon. As the final Renoir fight begins, music kicks in and it's just better than anything we've had before. Dodging, parrying, combo attacks, jump attacks, Renoir using his delete ability, full party AoEs and gradient counters. He throws everything at us. It's a truly challenging, well-designed fight, and when you get him to half health, he is joined by a giant electric lion and has one of my favourite narrative battle lines.
Hate me all you want, as long as you're alive to do it.
Defeating Renoir isn't easy. Getting him to low health is hard enough, and once he's beaten, we are joined by the Curator, and Renoir seems to know him.
At long last, we meet. This is all you have left of your son. Destroying it won't bring your wife back. It will only destroy the last tie you have to each other.
The Curator takes Mael's hand, places it on Renoir, and then together they erase him to a heartfelt line.
I love them too.
With Renoir defeated, we earn the second chance Pictos. This allows any character to revive once during battle, which is incredibly useful. It's worth mastering before heading to the top. With this done, we head on up the monolith and confront the Paintress, which brings revelations about Verso.
But the fire... Alicia... Your face...
My face?
Come along. Let's go home.
Yes. You need to go home.
She's not Alicia. You are not my Verso.
No. Verso's dead.
You will not take this canvas from me.
This is what we created the expeditions for.
Tomorrow comes.
The Paintress fight is a mix of everything we know and has the challenging parrying of 7 void meteors in a row and lots of flying attacks. Her first form isn't too challenging, but eventually she summons the massive construct from the monolith base and attacks us even more. We summon Esquier to fly away and escape, but she raises into the air and blocks us, forcing us to fight her second form. With sweeping hands and a magical paintbrush of light, and one of my favourite attacks where she rips reality apart and throws paint at you.
Arrogant man. I taught him to paint, and he seeks to use my creations against me.
She has some very poignant narrative battle lines, specifically...
Renoir can grieve however he likes, but I get to grieve my own way.
The Paintress is voiced by Tracy Wiles, an English actress known for Jaheira in Baldur's Gate 3 or voicing Tiamat in the Dungeons & Dragons episode of the Secret Level miniseries. When she's close to death, she will curse the party with only a single turn remaining. Use free aim shot to shoot the orbs of ink around her to extend that character's life by 1 turn, and eventually, after 20 minutes of parrying, jumping, gradient countering, Healing and stacking every mechanic you have together into an endless barrage of damage, the Paintress will go down. But the fight's not quite done, because now she begins healing you. Once beaten, you only need to deal the final blow, but if you skip turns, she'll cast Protect and Heal on your party, prioritizing Verso. And something feels wrong. But we are forced to kill her, and you'll earn the Painted Power Pictos, which allows your damage to exceed the 9,999 cap. And as the Paintress falls into Verso's arms, Maëlle kneels down, places her hand on her, and erases her, just as she did with Renoir. To a final parting word of the Paintress calling her
Alicia.
The Paintress defeated, the numbers fade from the monolith. But notice how when the Paintress fades away, the petals are gold.
It's done. You're free.
Wanna plant it?
The party flies back to Lumiere and is greeted to a hero's welcome. The man who painted the opera picture of Gustave and Sophie is there, and Maëlle finds Gustave's sister and apprentices and tells them Gustave didn't make it. While this is happening, Verso sits and reads the letter from the masked girl, his sister Alicia. And as he finishes, a powerful energy blast comes from underneath the monolith, sweeps over Lumiere, and everyone is erased. Maëlle watches in horror as the opera painter fades to petals. Sael looks oddly calm, almost accepting of her fate. Lune panics, running around trying to find anyone to grab onto. And eventually Maëlle is left alone on the ash-covered steps of Lumiere. Act 3 begins in Monolith Year 49, 16 years ago. We wake up as Alicia, her face burned and voice broken. The Eiffel Tower out the window standing as it normally does, and we hear our sister Clair calling us, so we go and explore the mansion. If we look around, we'll find 2 dogs asleep in front of the fireplace called Noko and Monoko. And if we head to the end of the now open corridor, we'll find our sister, mother and father in a fantastical painting room focused on a canvas. So get ready for a huge plot reveal.
Finally. Our little shadow is awake. Our parents are quite the stubborn pair. They're still fighting each other inside the canvas. He has her imprisoned at the top of the monolith, and she has him trapped beneath. It's a stalemate. Yes, I know. Maman's been in there for quite a while already. And Renoir is wasting time in there, trying to help someone who doesn't want his help. We have more urgent matters to attend to. The conflict is spreading, and there are things I must do if we painters are to survive. You will do nothing. You're too weak to do anything useful. You'd be a liability. The writers used you against us once before. They won't hesitate to use you again. And I can't promise that I'll make the same choice Verso made. Verso traded his life for yours. I both love and hate him for that. If you really want to be useful, then enter the canvas and help Renoir. I need him back here sooner rather than later. I'll fight this war alone if I have to, but I'd really rather not. Can you handle that?
Claire is voiced by Devora Wilde, another Baldur's Gate 3 alumni known for voicing Lyselle. She brings a real sense of grounded strictness to the character. Devora, do you want to be in the video?
Not now, Josh. I have a war to focus on.
That's fair.
If we bring Maman out of the canvas, she'll try to return. We must hide the canvas.
Well reasoned. And such a clever hiding spot you've chosen. Wait, that's Aline's chroma. Well, you're about to be reborn in this world as one of Aline's creations. Have fun.
She's a girl. She's a girl.
I have decided on her name. Maëlle.
That is a huge amount of plot advancement, and I have spoken to many people who still don't quite get it. So let's break down both the narrative and meta-narrative of Expedition 33 in roughly chronological order. Remember, this is a game about grief and how we each personally deal with grief. Some of us hide, some self-medicate, some lash out, and your personal way of dealing or theory of why characters do what they do is valid. I won't do a year-by-year recap, just breaking down the major plot points of my understanding of Expedition 33. The Descendre family live in the opulent manor in Paris, mother and father Aline and Renoir, and the 3 children Verso, Clair, and Maëlle, who in this reality is called Alicia. They are godlike beings called painters. They can create paintings, then head into them and exist among them, creating, adding, or erasing as they wish. And the creations have as much free will and humanity as you or I. They are, by all effects, real. Renoir is likely named after the famous painter Pierre-Auguste Renoir, a leading painter in the Impressionist style from France, who married Aline Chargot, a dressmaker. The painters are at war with the writers, we can assume powerful beings with the ability connected to books. Verso, the oldest child, has painted this canvas, working on it from childhood to now. His style is mostly taking things he sees in real life and shaping them into fantasy. He creates the gestrels, paintbrush creatures full of childlike wonder. He paints the overground, underwater, flying waters. He creates by adding flourish to what he sees in his real life. He even paints his childhood stuffed toy Esquier as a friendly god. Clair, the middle sister, spends time with Verso inside his painted world playing. Alicia is too young to join at this point. Verso's painting technique is stylized realism, while Clair's is more constructed practicality. If we head to Clair's room in the manor, we can see that she is a sculptor. She paints the Nevrons, designed to match the landscape wherever they are, but otherwise be faceless entities, shapes, living beings fit for a localized purpose. She's not heartless, she's practical but not cruel, so she paints Esquier a friend, a stoic, stone-faced turtle who deep down cares. She paints Francois. Renoir, the father, likely spends some time within this painting too. His style is more abstract, representational, metaphorical, so he paints the axons, which are representations of what he sees being the truth of his family. He who hides truth with lies is his version of Verso. He knows his son doesn't always say what he thinks or what he agrees with, as any son truly would. His masks show this. This is why the Verso we know says,
"That was Verso, wasn't it?"
when he puts on the mask. Renoir also paints his wife Aline as she who plays with wonder, an enchanting dancer, constantly creating and enthralling in an endless beautiful dance inside a stunning and captivating arena. Renoir also paints axons of Clair and Alicia. We've already found Clair's dead in Old Lumiere, impaled with the giant golden sword. If you fly around on the overworld as Esquier, you can see it's carrying the city on its back. Renoir sees how much responsibility Clair has taken on, and shows her as literally holding up part of the world. We'll find Alicia's axon soon, it's part of her questline, but it's clear Renoir has immense love and respect for his family, and values painting the truth of them, as opposed to what they look like. This is also why the Nevrons found on the Axon Island have faces. They are Renoir's designs, and Renoir sees his painted creations as living creatures, instead of Clair's version as just practical constructs. The writers then launch an attack on the painters within the real world, setting the mansion on fire. Alicia is somehow responsible for this, and would have died if Verso hadn't sacrificed himself to save her.
"You're okay."
The fire still burns her face and destroys her vocal cords, however. Aline, the mother, blames Alicia for the death of Verso, as explained in the journal we found earlier.
The person I cannot be around is Alicia. Her pain is a broken mirror. The shards reflecting back tenfold, and every moment with her the cuts deepen and I feel myself unraveling.
Clair switches focus to the war between the painters and the writers. Renoir grieves for his son Verso, but Aline, unable to accept Verso's death and knowing the canvas Verso painted would contain a slither of his soul, retreats inside it. Unwilling to face the grief of reality, she paints herself a perfect family inside the canvas, but her painting style is more selfish realism. She paints herself a husband, a painted Renoir, but makes him fiercely loyal and focused on defending her at all costs. She paints herself a perfect recreation of Verso, but in doing so gives him the memories of the fire and the knowledge of this world. Knowledge that he is only a representation, living inside a fantasy world that he himself is a facsimile of. She also paints Clair, the middle daughter. We'll find out what happened to her soon, but horribly, she then paints Alicia too. And we can tell how Aline feels by how she paints Alicia. She could make her look however she likes within this fantasy world, but she paints her in black and white, with a burned face without a voice. The painted Alicia exists not to enjoy life, but to suffer, to live alongside Aline in pain as constant penance
for causing the death of Verso. Aline retreats into her painted family and spends far too much time inside Verso's canvas, not dealing with her grief in real life. Renoir, rightfully so, wants his wife back and thinks avoiding dealing with grief isn't healthy. He cannot force her out of the canvas into the real world, or destroy the canvas while she is in it. So he enters the canvas to convince her to leave. However, Aline refuses. Renoir, being left with what he feels is no other choice, decides for the good of his wife and his family, he must remove her from Verso's canvas any way possible. So he begins using his powers to unpaint things, destroying Verso's childhood world. If it doesn't exist, Aline would have no reason to stay here. This causes the fracture, splitting the city of Lumiere and breaking the world. Aline doesn't want Renoir to do this, so imprisons him beneath the monolith while he is in the painting. He then uses his powers to imprison her on top. Renoir has enough power, though, over time to erase 1 year's worth of people every year. This becomes the Gommage, which is the French word for erase. And slowly but surely he begins erasing the canvas, starting with the people of Lumiere. Aline realizes she cannot stop this, but she won't leave and deal with her grief, so instead she accepts Renoir's inevitable plan and paints a giant number on the monolith counting down from 100, a message to all those she can save, an apology to Verso's creations. This is all revealed in the letter that Painted Alicia wrote to Painted Verso.
Brother, I tire of the conflicts and deceptions that plague our family and theirs. Maya, it's a strange feeling watching you with my brother, laughing and smiling. My family, a facsimile of yours, and this world, a mirror, painted by your mother, the Paintress, to stave off her grief. Seeing your expedition through would plunge us all into the abyss. For in ridding the world of the Paintress, you'd lose the sole force standing against the one who would erase us, the one who invokes the flowers of the Gommage. An act of love, for he does love her. Your father. On her monolith, she paints a warning for us all, of the few she can save as her power wanes. Your mother paints life, whilst your father, death.
Back in the real world, Clair is still fighting a war against the writers and hates how both parents are now stuck in a canvas arguing and not dealing with real-world problems, so she goes into the canvas to help her father Renoir. She paints the Nevrons to kill humans and trap their chroma within their bodies, removing it from circulation and slowly over time weakening her mother. This is why Clair's Nevrons don't have faces and are just practical constructs based on shapes and landscapes. They exist only to trap the chroma. She doesn't see them as real. While in the painting, Clair actually meets her painted self, her mother's perfect version of her, and she hates it so much she paints over it, trapping it in a fractured recreation of the family mansion, and instructing it to endlessly paint Nevrons until there is no chroma left. You can meet this version of Clair in a side mission later. While inside the canvas, Aline takes on the guise of the Paintress, and Renoir becomes the Curator. This conflict between Aline trying to preserve the world of Verso's canvas to avoid dealing with her grief, and Renoir trying to destroy the last shard of his dead son's soul to get his wife back, continues for 67 in-canvas years.
A fresh dawn in their playground, while we live in shadows, swimming in ink.
Time within the canvas and time in reality seems to move differently. During these years, the expeditions start. Citizens head to try and kill the Paintress and are stopped by a combination of Nevrons and Painted Renoir, Aline's perfect husband, who doesn't want anyone to harm Aline. In a cruel touch, though, he is still aware of what he is doing.
She's not the only one who grieves. The pain of losing you, she made me inherit it. Punishment, perhaps, for not being there when it mattered.
Painted Renoir may be Aline's creation, but he is still an individual unto himself. Then the burned face Alicia, the youngest child, decides she wants to help end this conflict and get both their mother and father back. Clair knows the moment either is kicked from the canvas, they will likely head straight back in. So the two girls move the canvas physically, hiding it in the real world. Then Alicia heads into the canvas to see how she can help. However, the battle between Renoir and Aline is so powerful and Alicia is so weak that as she falls through the chroma, she is repainted as she goes and is reborn in her own personal vision as Maëlle, the girl she wishes she could be. 16 years of in-canvas time later, Maëlle joins Gustave on Expedition 33. They meet the painted Verso. They successfully expel Aline the Paintress from the canvas by defeating her, but this in turn has freed the real Renoir from under the monolith. There's a subtle sound cue you can use to realize you've done this slightly early. Listen to the sound of Renoir putting his cane down on the floor.
Get ready.
That ominous deep reverb becomes Renoir's sound. Now listen to the sound of Maëlle planting the Expedition 33 flag on top of the monolith. Renoir knows the canvas is like keeping drugs around an addict or alcohol in the house of a recovering alcoholic. As long as a slither of Verso's soul remains in the canvas, Aline will never be free of the pull of it.
This won't make sense to you now. But we both want what's best for our families.
She will never actually deal with her grief and move on if this exists as an option. She will always want to relapse into the canvas. And if you think I'm stretching, remember the conversation at the very start between Gustave and other expeditioners.
There you are. You can't hide from us, you know. Like I said, mourning's best done with friends.
Lucien.
What? It is. Grieving alone's the worst. Don't drink alone, you weirdo.
But I still had one burning question which the game hadn't directly answered. Clair and Alicia hide Verso's canvas before Alicia heads into it because they know Aline, when removed, will try to return. But where did they hide it? I think I know. I think there are 3 clues to this. And if I am right, this is one of the biggest lore implications in the game. The first is the manor doors we've been finding. Using them is unlike any other transport effect. We're being magically teleported somewhere. The manor itself doesn't feel like a part of this painted world. It feels hidden. Even the Gestrels weren't able to get in. And while it is similar to the manor in reality, we know it's not exactly the same because the painted creations couldn't survive outside of a canvas. So this is not the real manor, but a painted version itself. But it doesn't match the art style of any of the painters we know. The second clue is, when you briefly play as Alicia in the real world, you can explore the manor before heading to the atelier to meet Renoir and Clair. You can find many paintings on the walls, but only one painted by Alicia herself. That one, a very small painting of the manor. It's easy to miss. The third clue is, listen to the exact line Alicia says to Clair while they're hiding Verso's canvas.
If we bring Maman out of the canvas, she'll try to return. We must hide the canvas.
Did you hear the clue? It's obvious once you realise. The clue is, Alicia is talking, when we've established she cannot talk. This means she is inside a canvas with her repainted voice at this exact moment, before heading into Verso's canvas. I believe this reveals that Alicia hides Verso's canvas inside her own small canvas painting of the manor, which, if true, would mean painters can take canvases into other canvases. This isn't confirmed, but I think it makes too much sense to be wrong. So Renoir resolves to destroy the canvas entirely. This now means expelling Alicia as her Maëlle counterpart. But Maëlle doesn't want to leave. In the real world, she is burnt, hated, and has no voice. Here, she's a hero with friends and adopted family. In painted Verso, in the citizens of Lumière, who, in a way, are descendants of Verso's original populous creation. For a much more disturbing symbolic link between Maëlle and Alicia, look at Maëlle's skills. Alicia was horribly burned in the manor fire, and Maëlle's skills are called Rain of Fire, Combustion, and Burning Canvas. This brings us to now.
Alicia.
Actually, I prefer Maëlle.
I think I do too. But I'm not really Verso, and you're not really Maëlle, are you?
You're not Verso, no. You look and sound just like him, but you're you. But I'm glad you exist.
Your father was right to erase everyone is better this way.
Better for who? Verso would never have wanted his canvas gone. Papa's here. He'll help me fix Lumiere.
Will he?
Papa.
Alicia. Some of Eileen's finest work. I regret that it caused you so much pain. What Eileen did was unfair to you most of all. Please, accept the Descendre family's apologies. I know it seems absurd to offer oblivion as recompense, but perhaps that's the outcome we both desire.
What? But she's home now. Why?
You know your mother. Verso painted this canvas. It contains a piece of his soul. She'll never willingly part with it.
No.
For the sake of the living, we must part with the dead.
This is my home now. You can't just decide.
Your home? After all that with your mother, you want to stay?
You know how little remains of my life outside.
Alicia, you'll die. You've already been here longer than you should.
But...
No. Look at me, I said no. I am not letting my daughter risk her life.
I'm not going to lose myself if I stay.
I know full well you will, and I am not doing this again!
No! Papa, what are you...
It's time to go home.
Maëlle has rediscovered her true heritage as a painter and must face her father Renoir and defeat him to preserve what is left of Verso's canvas. And now we notice the petal colours. As Renoir attempts to gommage Verso, he begins to fade to red petals, and as Maëlle uses her power to prevent this, they turn to gold. The colour of the petals links to both where the chroma is going after destruction and who created the thing. Renoir fights and destroys with red petals. We can see this in the gommage. Eileen with white. And the battle for the canvas between Renoir and Eileen has been symbolically shown from the very start, with Lumiere being decorated in red and white flags and flowers. The numbers painted on the monolith by the paintress are brilliant white gold, and the message on the blue tree, written by Renoir as the curator to lead us to the manor, that was red. This symbolism continues back at the camp with her paintress side unlocked. Maëlle attempts to repaint the gommaged expedition, and the colours of the petals show her stepping away from the influence of Renoir and into becoming her own person, as the petals she attempts to paint with go from unsuccessful red to successful gold.
I did it so easily.
Painting isn't about verisimilitude. It's about essence, truth of who they are.
But surely Maëlle staying in the painting is heading down the same fated path as her mother, falling deeper into this simulated world to avoid facing the harsh realities of grief. And Painted Verso knows this.
Maybe you should go home.
Verso.
You're fighting each other, but you're all doing the same thing. Eileen wants her son back. Renoir wants you and Eileen back. You want Gustave back. The cycle we needed to break wasn't the gommage. It's your family's cycle of grief. Our whole world carries the burden of your family's grief.
Maëlle knows Renoir, real Renoir, has an army of Nevrons, and she too will need an army to stage a counterattack. So the expedition go on a journey to gather the only chroma they know of, the chroma left in the bodies of dead expeditioners.
It's old chroma and not pure. It won't be like bringing the two of you back, but we could use it in other ways.
With Maëlle now at the head of a painted army, Esquier gains his final ability, the ability to fly. And just like the High Wind in Final Fantasy VII, the world is now open to us. It's here the game both opens up and gets a tad unbalanced. The painted power Pictos removes the damage cap, and it only costs 5 Lumina to equip, so it's an auto-equip on any build. But after killing the Paintress, you're actually at the perfect level to go and take on the final Lumiere battle. You could go and take on Renoir. However, the narrative will flow better and you'll have a deeper understanding of character motivations if you go and do the optional side content, the relationship paths, hidden dungeons, and a few of the ultra bosses. But if you do these first, you'll actually end up rather overpowered for the final story fight and potentially one-shot kill the final few bosses, removing the challenge. I think the story flows best and the mechanical balance is best if you complete Mael's questline now, then go to Lumiere and do the actual main story, then do all the optional content after that, so that's the route we'll be taking. But don't worry, I'll show you everything afterwards. Progressing through a personal questline just means having repeated conversations back at camp until eventually the character asks you to do something for them. In this case, it seems Mael has read Painted Alicia's letter. She understands her mother's simulacra of her is hurting, but still wishes happiness on both the painted and the real family, and Mael wants to go and talk to her. This means we can head to the third Axon. Alicia's Axon, hidden within the Reacher, the giant wooden tower just west of the Visage Island, which we can now access because Esquier can fly.
Another Axon. How did it get so large?
She wasn't always this tall, but she's obsessed with reaching the stars, so...
Papa and his parables. And Papa knows I have vertigo.
Important narrative touch that Renoir's Axon of Alicia is focused on climbing as high as possible, and Mael mentions having vertigo. She sees this as her father not really understanding her, as this is the exact opposite of what she feels she would want to do. Fighting through the Reacher is difficult but doable at this level. Enemies here are all Renoir's Nevrons, so they have faces. They are also literal straw men trying to disassemble the tower, and straw man is a term in psychology used for a constructed argument you pretend your opponent made, which is then very easy to disassemble to make your own side's points look better. The symbolism here is you are fighting through a wave of straw men to reach the truth of who Renoir sees Alicia as being. New status effect here. Blight. A stack of Blight reduces your maximum health by 10% and you can have multiple stacks on you. Once the stacks go up to 10, your health is reduced to 1. I think I maxed out at 60 stacks of Blight. The Reacher is one of the most visually stunning areas in the game, and as it's an endgame area, it takes full advantage of your uncapped damage. Halfway up, you can even find a small Nevron building some makeshift wings. They even offered to give them to Mael.
Vertigo, remember? His intentions are good, I know, but his methods... Claire's the oldest. She's just so perfect. So accomplished and talented. And Verso could always make Papa laugh. I had so many inside jokes. Then there's me.
And then there's you. The actual favorite. The one he calls his hidden star, but who's too shy and self-conscious to see it.
Yet here I am, messing things up even more.
Look around. He just wants you to fly.
Verso is right in pointing this out, and it reframes why Renoir saw Alicia's Axon as this. He didn't paint She Who Grasps at the Sky because he forgot Alicia has vertigo. He painted it precisely because she has vertigo and is still building, reaching, and creating what she needs to overcome her fears. The wings are because she knows she can fly despite being afraid, not because she won't. And at the very top, Mael meets Painted Alicia, her mother's creation of her, and together they head inside the mountain and fight.
You know Papa painted her, so you know who she represents?
This fight is one of my favourite moments in all of gaming, because of the sheer emotional power and symbolism of what you're doing. Mael, the brave and courageous girl, is how Alicia sees herself. Painted Alicia is how her mother sees her, created to suffer, to live in pain as a constant reminder of her perceived responsibility in the death of Verso. And the Axon Alicia, She Who Grasps the Sky, is how her father sees her, a young girl overcoming her fears through hard work and determination, supported by endless love from her father, even if a bit heavy-handed. This fight is Alicia as Mael rejecting her mother's blame under the watchful eye of her father's support, and Painted Alicia is happy to lose because it proves to her that the girl she is a punished copy of is stronger than she is, and has found the inner strength to reject the guilt her mother is making her feel. Her entire reason for existing isn't needed anymore. The cruelty of her mother's grief has been overpowered by her own inner strength.
And after we defeat Painted Alicia, she finally speaks her first words.
We both deserve to fly. Let me give you a new beginning.
Send me to my family.
Mael, as a paintress, grants Alicia her gift of being unpainted, and she leaves her life of guilt and pain. However, Verso still sees painted Alicia as his sister, as she very really is, and he feels the loss.
I didn't get to say goodbye.
There's a lot more optional content, but for narrative flow, we'll go to Lumiere now, then explore the stuff we missed later. We land back on the docks where our expedition began, and Mael summons her painted expeditioner army.
Tomorrow comes.
The run up the steps back to Lumiere is one of the coolest set pieces I've ever played through. Renoir's Nevrons appear to stop you, but your painted army smashes into them and clears the way for you. The music kicks in, and while our army is capable, there are still some enemies we need to deal with. Renoir has created these Nevrons to physically break the world, to unpaint. As such, they are a split, clear, obscure body with a central black sword and a ball of void energy above them to reap the chroma. These things are tough, but by now you'll have a solid understanding of your team's skills and tactics. Fighting back through Lumiere is bittersweet. We can even return to the rooftop we ran along at the very start as Gustave. And if we look out over the land, we'll see a terrible void creature fly past, a creation. We're hoping to avoid fighting that for as long as possible. I like how you can watch a battle between one of your own repainted expeditioners and Renoir's Nevrons, and they use the same battle moves and fight in a turn-based way. That's lovely design. Further inside battle-ravaged Lumiere, we meet the faceless ghost child again. He says he wishes we could understand what it means for him to paint, and we finally figure out who this is, the child we've been seeing all around. The child who cannot quite remember or understand what's going on. This is the last fragment of real Verso's soul, keeping the canvas alive simply by holding on to his own existence, that holdover of childlike innocence and wonder who paints because this is what he knows and at one point loved. But deep down he is tired, he is forgetting, and he wishes he could just stop painting. We even find a journal here from Expedition 60 who actually did reach the Paintress and discover the truth of the Gommage, of the Curator, and tried to warn Lumiere, but the last survivor of the expedition drowned on the swim back.
William, Expedition 60. The Paintress is just as trapped as we. The real terror lies beneath the monolith. I was tasked to warn Lumiere, but it seems I might have run out of time. I don't know if I can outswim the Gommage. So here I write my final message. And don't waste time on the Paintress. Aim for the bottom of the monolith.
Eventually, we reach the Opera House. Verso used to play piano, and Aline always wanted to watch him perform at the Opera House one day, so we see the painted ghost child Verso endlessly playing. And remember the opera painter at the very start, where Gustave and Sophie parried each other? If you completed that tutorial, then look up and you'll see the painting he made, covering the ceiling. We find the ghost of Verso's soul once more, wondering maybe he should continue forever. And as he wonders, we reach the Lumiere Mansion Gardens.
Papa is somewhere past the gardens. I can't sustain the expedition as much longer.
The final approach through the manor grounds and the penultimate foe, one of Renoir's strongest Nevrons, a void creation.
My father's been extra inspired.
A most enticing challenge.
This horse-like mass of tangled bodies and anti-energy acts as the final mini-boss. Shooting the void sphere actually heals you, until it applies inverted to the whole party, and now, well, it harms you. The fight is tough, but we are tougher. Destroy the creation and its minions, and then run in to face Renoir, under the painted Eiffel Tower.
I just want you to understand what this canvas means to me.
I do understand. I know how powerful and intoxicating it is. How deeply attached we can become to the worlds we pour our hearts and souls into. Do you really think that I want to destroy this last piece of his soul?
And don't.
Life keeps forcing cruel choices.
Grief often blinds us, and we make choices we can never take back.
You grieve for two.
I grieve for many.
The choices of parents leave indelible marks upon their children. But ultimately, the voices in their head have to be their own.
Your friends speak truth, and it changes nothing.
You treat me as if I'm still 5!
I treat you as if the shadow from the worst day of our lives is going to suffocate you and take you from us too!
Before the actual fight, a moment of respect for the narrative touch here. Clair does not consider the canvas world important. To her, the real war between the painters and the writers matters, and the Nevrons can kill all the painted humans. But Renoir thinks differently. He understands the deity-like power of the painters, and even though the people in the canvas are painted, he understands they still have agency, empathy, understanding, all the traits which make them, on a level, real. He could wipe them out in an instant, gommage them, or ignore their input entirely, but Renoir understands the power to create sentient life, carries the responsibility to respect it and listen to it, even meeting it on a roughly equal level of empathy. We see this when he apologizes, genuinely, to Painted Verso, a simulation of his dead son created by his grieving wife, and he still offers it the respect he would show to his own family.
And then, when Renoir listens to Mael's pleading, he responds earnestly.
Your friends speak truth, and it changes nothing.
That line, your friends speak true, not only is he acknowledging these painted creations are right, he understands these painted beings are Mael's genuine friends. Renoir knows he must destroy the canvas, which will end their reality, but he's neither heartless nor dismissive of the truth. He understands the responsibility of being effectively a god and how, even though he's killing his creations, they are real. And his fight burns with that respect as he takes on his painter form, the Curator, and attacks. This is everything I wanted from a final fight. An emotionally complex enemy, a morally grey situation where both sides are right, a team of ragtag underdogs fighting together against a literal god, as his daughter stands with the ragtag team to defend their reality, maintained by the fleeting essence of her dead brother's soul. Every mechanic has been leading to this, dodging, parrying, jump attacks, gradient counters, an epic background within a story which comes full circle. The Renoir boss fight is incredible, and when you think you're almost done, he summons the Axons, he who hides truth with lies and she who plays with wonder, to aid him. Which means when he stumbles and needs help, he does what he believes is justified and calls on his painted representations of his son and wife, because he's doing this for them, to let his son rest, to let his wife heal. Verso's Axon uses his masks to shield Renoir, and Aline's heals him back to full health, and the fight effectively resets but harder, meaning even in the final fight the game is calling back to the symbolism of cycles. Music, mechanics, emotional impact after relatable setup, and understandable motivations all around. This fight is a shining example of everything just working, and when you finally beat him you realize you can't. He just keeps healing. But we are joined by an unlikely ally.
Aline, you're going to kill yourself. It's too soon for you to return to any canvas.
Aline returns to the canvas, not as the Paintress, but as Alicia's mother and Renoir's wife, and the first thing she does is attack her own Axon, which is symbolically rejecting Renoir's perfect representation of her in this world. Renoir's painted Aline Axon would heal him forever against all criticisms, but the real Aline recognizes he is not in the right either, not now. And I like to think her brief time back in the real world after we defeated her allowed her to see what retreating into Verso's painting had done to her, to Renoir, and what it will do to Alicia, and how her returning is done to pull the family, the complete family, out so they can grieve together. In a final desperate move, Renoir summons the missing canvas from the manor, the family portrait, and pulls from it the strength he needs to do what is right for his family. Remember, the name of the game is Clair Obscur, the technique of extreme contrast, and one small touch I love is how in the Paintress fight she holds a paintbrush as a giant weapon, but she holds it correctly because she is creating. Renoir, as the Curator, holds a paintbrush as a sword but holds it backwards, representing his desire to unpaint. After dodging a few more moves and a few more counters, Renoir unleashes his final attack. But Mael is not having it.
Not this time! Destroying the canvas won't help us move on. It'll just deny us the one place that helped us feel again.
This is what I see every day.
Renoir shows us the consequences of Aline's lengthy exposure to the canvas. He has lost his son to war, his wife to addiction, his eldest daughter to obsession with retaliation, and his youngest is a shadow of her former self. But when Maëlle promises that she will be able to handle staying here a little longer, Renoir reluctantly agrees. He gives up and lets her stay.
Just a little longer.
I want to trust you.
You can.
Keep the light on for you. Hold on to each other.
But Painted Verso attempts to step through the portal into the real world, instead ending up in the heart of the canvas, the final essence of real Verso's soul, the scared child who keeps this world going.
You're tired of painting, aren't you? I'm tired too. You lied to your father.
No.
He saw it too. You're going to die here. Why don't you just leave? You can always come back.
The moment I leave, Papa will erase this canvas.
This is not worth your life.
What life? My life of loneliness in a shell of a body, with no voice and no future. Here I have a chance to live, Verso, to live. Out there I merely exist.
Life keeps forcing cruel choices.
Stop quoting Papa! Verso!
I'm sorry.
And now you make your final choice. Renoir didn't trust his daughter would be strong enough, and he's just tired of fighting his family. He understands on some level Alicia does not have a life in the real world. This canvas is her salvation. So you now have to choose.
Do you fight as Maëlle, the way Alicia sees herself, and effectively enslave the last remnant of your dead brother's soul and force him into an eternity of painting this world he no longer wants, forcing Painted Verso to live forever with the memories of the fire and face the truth he was only ever a simulation to stave off grief, leaving Renoir, Aline and Clair to grieve Verso and now lose Alicia, but saving everyone else and allowing Alicia as Maëlle to have friends, a voice, a life in the canvas, fake but happy. The game even reinforced the notion that these painted recreations of people she used to know will not be the same as the originals we know through the gestural reincarnation connection, and Minoko explaining they do not come back the same. Or do you fight as Painted Verso? Convince the shard of Verso's soul to stop painting and let this reality be unpainted, granting him the oblivion he wants, freeing real Verso's soul from this painted prison, expelling Maëlle out the canvas and back to her life as burned Alicia, where she can grieve with her real family, but in doing so, unmake everyone we've come to know, destroy the final surviving artwork of the real Verso, and forcing Alicia to live as a burned, broken, voiceless girl, resented by her mother and increasingly ignored by her father and sister. Real, but sad. Many people have said to me that they believe one of these options invalidates the entire journey, but I disagree. I think the option only has emotional weight because of the journey we've just gone on.
The question everyone then asked is, so what's the good ending? There is none. That's the point. If you accept that Renoir treated the painted world with respect and humility, then you understand that even though these are creations within a canvas, they are still very much real, within the context of their own love and hate and pain and suffering. And because of this, unmaking them is unconscionable. But if that is the case, then forcing Painted Verso to live a life of immortality when he craves death is just as cruel. But erasing it and condemning Maëlle to return to her life as the burned husk of Alicia is equally as horrible. No matter what you choose, you are condemning someone to live through their own personal hell forever.
Verso, stop! You can't just decide this for everyone!
We're all hypocrites, doing the same thing to each other.
As Renoir says,
life keeps forcing cruel choices.
Grief is awful, and there is no right answer. The choice you make now is a reflection of how you, as an individual, deal with grief. Do you retreat into a happy fantasy or endure a harsh reality? If you choose to fight as painted Verso and choose to destroy the canvas, you defeat Mael.
Don't do this. Don't leave me again.
And then watch as the expeditioners step into the canvas source, the heart, and, unable to continue existing, fade away. Verso then says a heartfelt farewell to Esquier and Monoko.
I will miss you guys.
You lead the essence of Verso's soul away from the canvas, and back in the real world, we see the Descendre family gathered around Verso's grave, Alicia tightly hugging Verso's childhood toy, a stuffed doll of Esquier, and the family, real but broken, are trying to heal. But if you choose to fight as Mael, the defeated Verso, realizing his fate of immortality, begs her to allow him to die.
Please, listen to me. Only you can do this. You can do this, please. Unpaint me. Unpaint me. Please. I don't want this life.
Stop saying that.
I don't want this life. I don't want this life.
Mael then offers a compromise.
If you could grow old, would you find a reason to smile?
If you choose Mael's ending, we then return to Lumiere, to the opera. Mael has repainted Lune's parents. She has repainted Sael's husband. She has even repainted Gustave and Sophie, but remember, these aren't the exact ones we knew. They are copies, close approximations. And as they take their seats at the opera, we see an aging Verso take to the stage to play, the audience looking on expectantly. But Mael is different. That is the only jump scare in the game, and it's incredibly effective. Mael is succumbing to the same addiction, the same grief-avoiding paint poisoning that her mother fell to. And that is the story of Expedition 33. A family of painters dealing with grief caused by the loss of a son through war and retreating into a fantasy world and living a created happy family's life, while all the time ignoring and not supporting each other in the ways any of them truly needs. And we are forced to ask the question, at what point does this exciting happy manufactured fantasy actually become a better existence than harsh, uncaring reality? But we're not done, not mechanically, because once you've completed the story, you can reload after the final fight and take on the super high-level optional content. Remember how Esquier knew Sael was a bad swimmer? Her questline reveals her traumatic past. Sael's husband was set to Gommage in a few years, but instead died in an accident at the docks. She was prepared for his Gommage, but not to lose him unexpectedly. In her grief, Sael simply swam into the ocean to drown herself. But remember when we fought She Who Plays with Wonder, and Sael saw her husband and child? The truth is, Sael did almost drown, but was pregnant at the time. Esquier found her floating in the ocean and saved her, bringing her back to shore. However, the event caused her to lose the baby. The scar on Sael's stomach is a cesarean for the lost child. Sael's husband's name is Pierre, which in French means rock or stone, and Esquier says to her, "I guess we both lost our rocks." This combines together, as Pierre Esquier is a famous French architect, which is why he needs his stones. You can then access the Frozen Hearts ice dungeon close to Monoko Station, containing some higher-level Nevrons, some secret costumes, and a few powerful Pictos, along with some of the harder chromatic Nevrons. The optional dungeons even have Dark Souls-style shortcuts you unlock to return to the expedition flag easier. You can fly up to the Dark Gestural Arena and take on more one-on-one fights, except they're now 1-on-3, ending with a boss fight against Golga. You can fly into the world bosses, including the massive Frost Evoke, which is easily powerful enough to kill you. You can return to the top of the monolith and take on the chromatic Clair Obscur enemy for massive Lumina rewards. You can fly into the ocean and take on Spronk, the giant Nevron. This thing cycles through several attacks. All of them can be parried, and all will need to be because it has an absolutely massive HP pool. Defeating this gets you the Cheetah Pictos, which allows you to take 2 turns in a row.
Combine this with the always attacks first Pictos and set up Lune with the always do critical hits when fighting alone Lumina, and then you can guarantee to combo from Elemental Trick to build up 4 different stains into the massively overpowered Elemental Genesis for 8 multi-target AoE hits, amazing for fast experience farming. You can fly to the Endless Tower, a series of increasingly hard combat challenges where you fight 33 waves of enemies. It also has this static camera entrance section which has very Final Fantasy Devil May Cry vibes to it. You can return to the Dark Shores opening, the landing beach, and actually fight the nightmarish hand enemies which grabbed you from the start. Or you can head to the Flying Manor, where Clair and Verso used to play, fight through 4 superpowered original versions of Nevrons Clair made to unlock one of the hidden super bosses, Painted Clair herself, who is an absolute damage machine, summoning Nevrons she created to aid her in every attack, hitting for some of the hardest and fastest combos with all types of parrying needed, and if she lands a single hit on you, she will heal herself for 500,000 health per turn. I try for ages to take Clair down without cheesing the game, but my god she is tough, and a missed parry sets you back several minutes of damage, and we're at a point where we can build into some stupid damage. Remember I said there's a Pictos which just kills you instantly? Well, there are other Pictos which cast buff spells on others when you die, and some of these are very powerful. So we can combine them by doing about 4 hours worth of setup to build a party where Verso instantly dies, buffs Mael with several Pictos, and then Mael takes advantage of this by using the Cheetah Pictos to take 2 turns, reducing her health to 1 but going into Virtuous Stance, and then hitting back with a fully powered up Stendhal skill for 20 million damage in a single hit. And this is after they nerfed this attack. This was broken on release. I grind away for hours because the gameplay loop is just so satisfying, and once high leveled enough, I progress Eskier's questline, which is about finding a new stone, allowing him to dive underwater, and some of Eskier's lines are just adorable.
They're all so nice. Well, the super nice one died, but the others are cool too. I too am ooh, but I'm also wee, so the wee balances the ooh.
When you can dive, you can head to Renoir's Drafts, the place Renoir was trapped under the monolith. You can fight his most powerful Nevrons, more creations, and then journey to the deepest dungeon, the Abyss.
Maybe we should turn back. I sense something powerful down this path.
Now, when I say this game was somewhat inspired by Dark Souls, not only is the final area called the Abyss, the hidden super boss has 1 arm and uses a greatsword, exactly like Artorias of the Abyss from the Dark Souls 1 DLC. Down here, you can find Simon. Narratively, Simon was a member of Expedition Zero, along with Painted Verso, but he met the real Clair when she was in the canvas. She painted over Simon and gave him the power to kill Axons, instructing him to kill her Axon, as she hated it. This is why her Axon has Simon's golden sword sticking out of it. After that, Simon ventured beneath the monolith to try and take on Renoir, but wasn't powerful enough and has been trapped here ever since. This fight is honestly unfair. Simon has many super fast combos, tens of millions of health, will steal your shields, will put your whole party on 1 HP almost every turn as an extra attack, and he's got 2 phases, with the second phase having a ghost after image of his attacks, which also must be parried, so you're pressing the parry button twice super fast for every hit. Simon is a test of patience and tenacity, easily on par with bosses like Melania or Promised Consort Radahn from Elden Ring. The only thing not fully expanded on, which leaves scope for sequels or connected media, is the painters versus writers war, which many have suggested, and I quite like, may actually be a meta commentary, and the writers are the actual writers of the game Expedition 33 itself, because they are the ones who forced the painters to exist within this story, who technically killed everyone by writing the very script of the game that we have played. But now we've finished the game and done the optional content, we can finally answer the simple question. Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. Is it actually any good? Let's start with the flaws. Equipping Pictos and Lumina is somewhat clunky moving from screen to screen. The lack of a minimap in some areas makes navigation tedious when you end up in a loop. The lack of fast travel on the world map is draining. The lack of enemy nameplates in battle or an in-game bestiary means we can't learn about the cool Nevrons. If 2 party members die when you try to use the revive tint, you're not always sure who you're currently selecting, and earning painted power at the end of Act 2
and Act 3 being so open means you're either doing the story fights at the right level with less context, or you're doing all the optional stuff for a complete understanding of the world, then doing the story fights and one-hit killing everything because you're now massively overpowered, which removes the tension. Mechanically, the inspirations for the game are obvious, and the gameplay loop is tight. It plays as a love letter to all the games the developers enjoyed as they grew up. It takes ideas from Final Fantasy, Legend of Dragoon, Lost Odyssey, Devil May Cry, Chrono Trigger, Jade Cocoon, Golden Sun, Dark Souls, Sekiro, Guild Wars, and many more. Finding ways to make the interesting systems from these games fit together in a way which enhances them and allows the strengths of one system to cover the weaknesses of another. Mechanically, it is probably the most enjoyable turn-based RPG I've ever played, and at 20 hours story, it's also realistic that people with busy lives will be able to finish it. It's not a 100-hour endless game. It's a tight, concentrated, refined experience. The characters are terrifically written, beautifully animated, and expertly voiced all around. The environmental design is stunning, the overall art direction is striking and memorable. It will become iconic and has already spawned cosplays. I cared about the characters. They were flawed, they were complex, and ultimately they were heroes, dealing with their own personal losses and grief in a relatable way. But those flaws and strengths, as undeniable as they are, still aren't the most impressive thing here. Because Expedition 33 has done something very few games have ever done or will ever do. It took on the games industry, launching the metaphorical boat of expeditioner designers toward the imposing monolith of ever-present corporate dominance. And they won. They brought down the barrier of the AAA games industry, and they've shown everyone that something smaller, painted with passion, will always beat monolithic, mediocre slop. Expedition 33 is proof that passion, vision, and love for video games can combine into a game which others will also love, and the team who made this wanted to do things their way. And as Sophie said,
"Stubborn people change the world."
Expedition 33 stands not only as one of the best video games I've ever played, but also a shining example of creativity and passion within an industry so often afraid of both. When tomorrow comes, video games will be launching into a post-Expedition 33 world. And this will be the new standard to judge RPG games against. And the axons of massive companies know they can be felled by the expeditioners of smaller studios. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 will stand as a beacon, a proudly waving flag, and a stunning example of what video games can truly be for those who come after. Out of 10. Thank you for watching, and thank you again to the Patreons who support this channel and allow me to make these long-form videos. You can support from only £1 a month. Check the video description for links to the Patreon, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, and Discord, and as always, remember,
time for the greatest expedition in history.